Friends, very happy evening to all of you. We welcome you to the day 2 of this Metro conference, where we have slated 2 important topics today. One is on Bitcoins and blockchain, and secondly on artificial intelligence for professionals. As I told, things are going very fast, and more than faster as expected. Thanks to the COVID, a lot of things our members have kind of adopted, but still there is a long way to go as to the usage of effective technology. Today we have joining with us Sri Santhosh Palavesh from UK, who is going to brief us upon the blockchain and bitcoins, and then later Srinivasan on artificial intelligence. Also joining with us, apart from Abhishek Murli Secretary, CA Chengal Reddy from Hyderabad, who is the chairman of the Digital Transformation and Information Technology Committee. So probably this year has been a year where technology has been made excellent and good use of. So with this very brief introduction, I'm eagerly waiting for the speaker to address the gathering. And before we take things forward, I will request CA Chengal Reddy to share his thoughts.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, greetings from the Digital Accounting and Assurance Company of SIRC at ICAI. Chairman DC, as well as my good friend Abhishek, today's speaker Santhosh Palavesh, and the viewers of the today virtual Metro Conference second day webinar. A pleasant good evening to each one of you. I think you rightly said that the technology is a transformation, and it has its impact on the practice of accounting and as well as the assurance, providing to be a game changer for the profession. Today we hear a lot about fake news and information overloaded, particularly on the internet. But what if there was a way of people to have access to data so that the truth of the data was preserved? Enter distributed ledger technology. Many readers will have heard about blockchain, which is one of the DLT. Blockchain has its roots in cryptography and encryption technologies. Historically, the purpose of cryptography was to secure data of transmission using encryption, so that only those recipients with keys could decrypt the data and use it. I think DC has rightly put the entire 2020 is the technology year, we can say. We don't want to take much time on the subject point. I think if you want to change your this one, we have to adapt. So with this, I convey my sincere thanks to the chairman as well as Secretary Abhishek Murli for giving me an opportunity to share some of my thoughts. But I think today's speaker Santhosh Palavesh, who is well versed with the blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, will throw some light on the cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. Obviously, it will be a very useful session for the members of our region. Thanks DC for arranging a very nice speaker on this topic. My compliments to the speaker as well as chairman for bringing so many speakers across the world. I can say, I think you brought so many speakers from UK, Australia. I think you are the person who has brought so many speakers even out of the country. I can say, thank you very much. I think happy learning to each and every one of you.
Thanks, Chengal. In fact, Santhosh, for your benefit, we call it continuing professional education, where our members have to be compulsorily updated of developments. But then we have made it a choice to give contemporary topics so that they are able to take benefit. So before I request the speaker to address, I'll request Dr. C. Abhishek Murli to introduce the speaker.
Thank you very much. A warm good afternoon to all the participants who have joined in today. Chairman of SIRC, C.A. Dungachan Jain, my fellow council colleague, C.A. Chengal Reddy, and the speaker for the day, Mr. Santhosh Palavesh. This is a very important topic, as very beautifully encapsulated by my council colleague, C.A. Chengal Reddy, who is also the chairman of the Digital Assurance and Transformation Committee of SIRC. And even though blockchain is a new concept, it's a concept that's gaining large amount of traction. And to be honest, it's a concept that I'm finding it very hard to understand. So I have to repeatedly read up about it and brush up about it. So today we have a reader who's going to try to simplify it and also explain the impact of the same for us. Santhosh, being financial professionals, I'm sure you will have more insight into how much impact this is going to have for us. So we're looking forward to the session that you're giving today. And before I hand over the session to you, I'd like to briefly introduce our speaker today, Mr. Santhosh. He is a freelancing. He started off his career as a freelancing designer and a short film director during his college. And he won a lot of accolades and applause for his short film competitions in designing competition. And then he slowly started shifting towards advertising and branding. He started his company as a startup in 2007 called United Movie Makers. And then he subsequently shortened it to UMM. And he started with one employee. And today it's an organization with more than 120 employees. And he has ventured into advertisement, branding, technology, digital marketing, and blockchain with lots of experts in each of the areas that we're talking about. He has more than 500 clients, including Fortune 500 companies, and he has presence in more than 5 countries today. It has been more than 10 years now since he has started his company, and he is now in the top 25 digital transformation agencies in India. His clients include Larsen and Toubro, Mercedes-Benz, and some of the most leading corporates in India and abroad. In fact, his now a CIO position he's holding the company called Belfrix, who are exploring ways in which blockchain can help the government and companies function better. So this is only a brief description about him. He's a regular award winner as well. He's won many number of awards, but if I start reading them, it will go on and on. So I think we've got a really competent and a wonderful speaker today, and I'm sure he'll be able to bring this topic in a more understandable manner for all of our profession. Thank you so much, Santhosh, for accepting our invitation to be here today.
Yeah, thanks, Abhishek. Santhosh, I may not be there all the time because I'm at the Vizag airport, but I would love to listen to you later in the recordings, which will be available in our SIRC website.
Sure.
Thank you all of
you. Thank you, Santhosh. I'm leaving to Vizag. I'm going to join with the chairman. So please kindly excuse me.
No problem, no problem. Please, yes, sure.
Abhishek will be there
thank
too.
You, Abhi. Thank you, DC. Thank you.
All right.
Over to you, Santhosh.
Yeah, so can I begin, Abhishek? Yeah, great. So let me go ahead and share my screen as well. Yes. Okay, so I mean, Abhishek, thanks for the wonderful introduction. Thanks, Dungarji, thanks, Chengalji, for the wonderful opportunity. I love interacting with people, trying to teach them what blockchain is, what Bitcoin is, and what this whole money making or what this whole Bitcoin scam about. There's a lot of contemplations, controversies around it, right? Right. So a quick background. Yes, though I started out as a designer, but my life has completely changed in the last 7 years. I am primarily into technology these days, right? So I am a chief innovation officer in a company called Belfrix, which is a blockchain-based company. We began that in early 2014-15 when a lot of people didn't know Bitcoins or blockchain. And Bitcoins back then we're talking about $150 or $200, right? Now today it's $1,000 mark. Right. So I'm basically a technology person. So I have my employees, staff who take care of all the things. But on a very personal level, I'm a fintech enthusiast. I love all technology with finance and commerce. So fintech is one of my favorite space, and I spend quite a time trying to understand what fintech is all about, what blockchain is all about, right? Great. So now before I proceed, now these are some words I am pretty sure everybody would have heard about trying to discuss Bitcoins or blockchain with your friends or etc. Right? So number one is, oh no, Bitcoin is a scam, it's illegal. That's one of the statements that most of us would have commonly heard, right? Okay, it's banned by the RBI, it's not legal, it's not legal in India and etc. This is again another common statement, right? Okay, so we can't use Bitcoins anywhere. I cannot pay Bitcoins in, I don't know, maybe Max or Lifestyle or Future Bazaar or regular grocery store. I can't use Bitcoins, so it's useless, right? Its valuation across $35,000, $40,000. So it's full of hype. It's a bubble. Bitcoins are risky. Nobody understands what Bitcoin is, so it's not for us. And Bitcoins are costly. One Bitcoin is $35,000. So I cannot afford it. Right? And in my circle, I've not seen anybody buy or invest or trade in Bitcoin, so I don't trust it. Right? So these are some of the common questions that goes around back in India, and which is what I am looking forward to try and clarify and talk upon, and I'm going to try and put it in the most simplest language as much as possible, right? Okay, now I'm most of you are from commerce background. Okay, so that's said and done. Let's quickly look at how a typical bank works, right? So let's go back to the history of banks. So back in 1600s, 1700s, when banks came into existence back in Italy, back in Europe, bank is an institution which was storing and safeguarding people's money, and people can deposit or withdraw whenever they want. That was a very humble history behind banks. But why did we need a bank? First of all, we needed a bank because we were dealing with physical currency. We're talking about gold coins, silver coins, which then transitioned into physical cash notes. All physical goods are can be stolen, right? It can be lost. That's why we cannot need a bank. Bank offered that security. And then when with banks came a regulatory body, and banks became a institution, and bank itself as an institution is approximately 400-500 years old, right? Okay, now let's look at how a very basic bank works. This is very important if you really need to understand how a Bitcoin or a blockchain works, right? Okay, now let's say, for example, I have a bank. Let's say my account is in State Bank, and let's say Abhishek's account is in ICAI. If I need to transfer money from my account to Abhishek's account, I initiate a transfer. So I initiate a transfer through my NEFT or RTGS or my local branch, which then goes to the SBI head office. They then pass through the RBI clearing house, initiate the transfer with the ICAI of Abhishek, and then Abhishek gets the money, right? So there's a chain of transfers that's involved, right? So that's what it's on the screen as well, right? So what happens is the sender sends the money to money transfer operator, that goes to bank. From bank, it goes to the clearing house, to the banking authority or the RBI. Then it goes to the clearance bank, and then the receiver gets the money. So if you look at this here, there are 3 to 4 other stakeholders than me and Abhishek who are directly involved. So trade is between me and Abhishek, and I need to send money to him, right? But there are 3 more people making money out of our transaction, right? Well, that is safe. That our traditional banking methodology is definitely safe. It's a well-proven business model, and it's worked for almost for past 400 years. But the trade is actually between me and Abhishek. Why are other parties trying to take money with that? Now coming to the case of, let's say, Uber. Okay, now coming to the case of, let's say, Google, Facebook for news, right? The technology business has always been about eliminating the middleman, right? The middleman always makes money between 2 transactions, right? So blockchain, sadly, unfortunately, in certain cases, fortunately or happily in certain cases, is trying to eliminate the banking system out by enabling something called the peer-to-peer transaction, right? That is what Bitcoin, or actually not Bitcoin, the underlying technology, which is called blockchain, is all about, right? Now, if you see this diagram on the right side, right? So we're talking about a centralized network. So which means we're talking about an institution like an RBI, which is a centralized network which controls all the transaction, right? There are benefits in it, no doubts. For example, I do a wrong transfer, I can initiate a complaint to RBI or my bank, and I can get a chargeback of my this thing. That's not possible in Bitcoins or blockchain. There is risks involved, right? So that's centralized network. But the cons of it is they take a charge of every transaction, and it's very centralized. It's not completely transparent, right? And when certain people exploit the banking system, like the few businessmen back in India who exploit banking system of the whole large amount of crores and etc., the public does not have a transparency of what is actually happening within the banking system. That's traditional banking system, right? So back in 2008, when the recession happened, when the US market crashed and etc., right? It was also a major mistake driven by some really large banking institutions back in the US. So the whole trust on banking institution back in the US was shattered. That is when this anonymous person called one Mr. Satoshi Nakamoto, whose true identity is never revealed, he published a white paper, which then led way to a technology called blockchain, which is nothing but a peer-to-peer network. Let me try and put that technology in the most simplest way, right? Now, the same case, me sending money to Abhishek, right? But I'm not using a bank this time. I'm not using the state banks or the ICICI or the RBIs. I'm doing a peer-to-peer money transfer on blockchain. So what happens here is I have a wallet, which is like a Paytm, but there is an open source wallet, which it's free for everybody to hold a Bitcoin wallet. I have a wallet, and let's assume Abhishek has a wallet, right? In that case, I initiate a money transfer to him. So what happens is from my device using internet, it travels through various devices connected to the internet, and it reaches Abhishek within less than few minutes, right? Now, let's take, for example, I need to transfer money from London to India. It's going to take 2 days, But using blockchain peer-to-peer network, we are talking about less than 10-15 minutes to even transfer international funds. That's what is called about peer-to-peer network, right? This network is very similar to something called the torrent network, which most of us would have used to download movies online. When these piracy movies comes in, we download it using torrent because there's a lot of networks on internet through which the transfer happens. Okay, so that's all blockchain is all about, right? So now, in much simpler words, centralized banking system is like a privately stored Excel sheet. Blockchain network is a openly shared Google sheet, right? So if I share a Google sheet with you, everybody can update on the same time, and everybody knows what everybody is transacting. It's an open network. So similarly, what happens is blockchain is an open network, right? If you could see my screen here right now, okay, so it's an open ledger. Everybody can literally find, who's transferring to who and etc. Though the identity is sealed, everybody can see, who's transferring to who. It's an open ledger. It's like a Google sheet, right? The reason it is like a Google sheet is because, nobody can fault it or default it. Now, for example, if Abhishek has a Excel sheet saved in his system, he is free to change all the numbers that he wants according to how he wants. But if it is a Google shared sheet with permission locked, he cannot do that. That's what blockchain is all about. Now, if you look at this here, these are all the current blockchain transactions that's happening around the world. It's an open ledger. Anybody can contribute to this. This is what blockchain is all about, right? Everybody knows who is sending money to who. This is not happening in the banking system. I don't know whose money is going to who. Are banks faking it, or are some people exploiting it, or are politicians exploiting it? That's not happening in the case of blockchain. It's an open economy. That is what is led to the power of Bitcoin. Okay, that's blockchain. Excel sheet, Google sheet. Google sheet is blockchain, Excel sheet is traditional banking system, right? So that's blockchain, right? Now let's try and understand how a blockchain works and why they say it's hyper secure. Nobody can crack it. Nobody can can hack it. And why is it more safe than a traditional, etc., etc. Let's look at it, right? Now there are two organizations which the whole world respects, which is MasterCard and Visa, which enables a lot of payment transfers across online. We go swipe a card, it's a Visa transfer. We go swipe a card, it's a MasterCard transfer, right? They have transactional network. Their network speeds are up to 35 to 45,000 transactions per second, right? Globally, everybody is using Visa, MasterCard. Their traditional solution, whatever they have, can handle up to 35 to 45,000 transactions per second. So they are secure, all that's there, but it's not hack proof, right? Anybody can hack into a MasterCard. How many times have we gone through this news called MasterCard? There was a hack, few thousand credit cards got stolen. Amazon, there was a hack, few thousand credit card numbers got stolen, and etc., right? But a blockchain, what happens in a blockchain is, let's say if I need to again transfer money to Abhishek, there is a record that is recorded. Like for example, this is a record, or this is a sample record, right? So this 32-digit number is a sample record that says, right, from this wallet ID, which could be of Santhosh, so many amount of bitcoins were sent to Abhishek, whose wallet ID could be this, but there's no way you can find if that belongs to Santhosh and this to Abhishek. No, that's not possible at all. But this is a transaction and number that is stored as a block. So the more transaction keeps happening, one block gets to another block, another block, another block. So a chain of blocks get formed. A block is nothing but you can compare it to a cell in an Excel sheet. That's a transaction number, is called a block. But the speed and the rate at which the blockchain block is being formed, right, it's super fast, because of which hacking is completely prevented, right? And this block is stored in all the computers that are on the blockchain network, which runs in millions. So if you need to hack a Bitcoin network or a blockchain network, you need to hack millions of devices at the same time. I cannot change the record. I can change the record in 1 or 2 devices by hacking, but not in millions of devices, right? Millions of devices include Android smartphones, iOS smartphones, Windows PCs, Linux PCs, literally everything, right? It's impossible to hack so many millions of devices at the same time. That is what makes blockchain hack proof. I believe I have put it in as simplest as a language as possible, right? Yeah. Now let's try and understand what a Bitcoin is, right? Now let's be very honest here. Whenever a new technology comes in, the technology has to be marketed, right? So it's a personal opinion. Bitcoin is a very brilliantly marketed coin to promote the blockchain technology. So Bitcoin was the first created currency on blockchain. And just to give you a very interesting fact here, Bitcoin's value was so less. It was 0 when it started. One of the initial transaction was when somebody used 10,000 Bitcoins. Imagine one Bitcoin is $40,000 today. okay, a user used 10,000 bitcoins because its value was $0.0001 back then, right? So somebody used 10,000 bitcoins to purchase one pizza worth $10 back in 2010. Imagine the pizza shop owner guy with 10,000 bitcoins today, he's super rich, right? Anyways, so Bitcoin is the world's most popular cryptocurrency, and since blockchain technology is open source, like HTML is open source, C programming is open source, Java is open source, blockchain is also open source, because of which multiple coins came into existence. Right. And where does Bitcoin get its value? It basically gets value from its concept called fixed volume. Right. Now let's look at the currencies. Right. There are 2 to 3 different types of currencies. Now let's take a typical currency like an Indian rupee, right? Indian rupee's value is tied up with the country's performance, GDP, gold value, gold reserve, trade reserves, petroleum import, export, a lot of other factors, right? So in just overall India's performance values Indian rupee, right? Okay, now let's take China, a country like China, yuan, and etc. This is very community control, right? Chinese government has the power to decrease or increase their value like however they want it. So is Russia, right? They follow a different set of currency valuation. Now take US dollars, right? US dollar is global. US dollar is a fiat currency, which means its value is purely arrived at by the demand supply. If more dollars are there in overseas compared to US dollar becomes more powerful. The more people use US dollars, US dollar becomes more powerful. That's why international markets are on USD, etc., etc. That's where power depends from. Now, similar to that, Bitcoin is a fiat currency. It's more of a fiat modeled currency whose supply is limited because their model is derived from gold. Gold in real life is limited. Gold is not like a renewable energy, right? Gold is a fixed volume that once you mine a lot of gold, it's going to get depleted. Gold is like gold. So similarly, Bitcoin had a fixed volume in terms of 21 million Bitcoins. That's where it gets its value from. And there is a process called mining that happens. Mining is very simple. I'm going to break it down in the next slide. But the supply is fixed. Since the supply is fixed, when more people want more of Bitcoins, the value keeps going up. It's very simple mathematics, right? So if you look at it, there is very simple fixed supply. Now when more people try to buy the product, the value goes up. It's as simple as that, right? So that's how Bitcoins work. That drives its value, right? So Bitcoin also inspired a lot of other currencies. There are close to 3,000 4,000 different cryptocurrencies in the world. If you look at this website, this is called Coin Market Cap. For all of you guys who are listening, this website is the go-to place for learning everything about Bitcoins, cryptocurrencies, and blockchains, right? So there are n number 3,000 4,000 different coins, right, that's come out. Okay, now most of these coins are not regulated, they're not governed by a central body. Let's discuss that in a bit. Okay, so this is about Bitcoin. Okay, now how did so many computers became a part of blockchain network, right? Now let's take a classic example of Uber. If Uber needs to function properly, let's take in India or anywhere in the world, they need a minimum number of taxis, right? Only with more number of taxis, the whole network becomes more efficient, right? So what did Uber do? Uber gave a larger sum of the revenue to the drivers and they kept a commission fee, right? So that's why a lot of Uber guys went and became Uber drivers. Similarly, Bitcoin mining is nothing but the rent that you get for giving your devices. It could be a laptop or a smartphone, giving your devices as a rent to be a part of the blockchain network. So it's very simple, right? So back in 2010, 11, 12 and all, people used to switch on the computer, install the Bitcoin client and just keep the computer on. And since their computer is as a rent given to the Bitcoin network, they keep getting money. But instead of real money, they used to get Bitcoins in very minimal. For example, if my computer with a decent RAM, decent graphics card can be let out as a rent to Bitcoin network, I will get what 0.0001 Bitcoin. It could be anywhere between $10 to $20 per day also. It's still good money. 1,000 rupees, 1,500 rupees in India on a daily is basically good money. Now, what are these computers used for? Now, there are millions of devices who came into Bitcoin network to get daily rental, which is actually called mining. And what these computers or these devices do is every transaction of Bitcoin, like I showed you here, every transaction of Bitcoin is stored in all these computers equally, right? That Google Sheet, let's say, imagine it shared to all the people. It's very similar to that, right? So it's basically all the transaction from Santhosh to Abhishek for a value of, let's say, $1,000, it's stored in that device A, device B, device C, device D, in all the devices that's put into the network, right? Now you understand you cannot hack it because there's millions of devices. You cannot hack millions of devices at the same time. So the record of the transaction is always stored, and it stores as a block, and every Bitcoin transaction gets stored as a block, forming a chain of Bitcoins. So if you need to hack Santhosh's transaction, let's take a classic case. There's a big businessman who's, let's say, fooling Abhishek of, let's say, hundreds of crores in Bitcoins. Now, if you need to hack that, okay, it's impossible because you don't know which block he belongs to. And if you need to go find the block, more new blocks are getting added on a, every second basis. So it's impossible to find out which block that is. But if it's a banking based transaction, I can bribe my manager and I can, divide that transaction. Now you understand where blockchain or Bitcoin gets its value. That's the power of Bitcoin, right? That's what Bitcoin mining is all about. Mining is that rental you get just as a rental, Bitcoin mining is a rental that you get for letting your device be a part of the Bitcoin network. It's a rental income. It's as simple as that, right? Okay. How do Bitcoin mining farms look? Like this. Back in 2010, 11, even you can use small laptops and small smartphones, to put it. But looking at the number of volume right now, there are people who are buying big computers, supercomputers, and assembling it and giving it as a rental to Bitcoin mining, right? It is very similar to a case like, let's take, for example, suddenly Fast Track Call Taxi gives all its 5,000, 6,000 cars in Chennai to Uber, something like that, right? So they strike a kind of a deal, right? So similar to that, larger companies with larger infrastructure has also, given out their systems as rental, services as rental to, Bitcoin networks. That's what Bitcoin mining is all about. And these guys really make a lot of money, right? Okay. Now, let's look at a classic case. Santhosh, I think the mining game is now gone because that was started in 2010. We are almost a decade old right now. We are now almost 10 years past 2010. Now I am not interested in mining, but can I trade in it? Can I purchase a Bitcoin? Can I trade in it? Yes, you can, right? So now for people who want to buy and invest in Bitcoins, what you can actually do is you can find an online exchange. There's a lot of exchanges, one of the global exchange being this company called Coinbase. There are, Coinbase, there is Binance, and, etc., etc. So I will take you through that. So if you look at it here, I can purchase a Bitcoin, right? So I can purchase it for, lower amounts also. So it's just because a Bitcoin is $35,000 doesn't mean you need to buy for $35,000. You can buy fraction of it also. You can buy for 1,000 rupees also a Bitcoin. You can buy for 2,000 rupees also Bitcoin, right? Now, the same 1,000, 2,000 rupees, when you put in a fixed deposit, it gives you 6% per annum. Bitcoins are volatile. That volatility goes up to 6 to 12% per day, right? That's where the market, is really picking up, right? So you can buy using real cash. If you go to India, there are companies like WazirX, Unocoin, CoinDCX. So what you need to do is, these are companies like Paytm. You can go register an account there, finish your KYC process, submit your Aadhaar there, you get a wallet. You can start purchasing Bitcoins using your credit card, debit card, right? And store your money as Bitcoin. That's possible. Equivalently, you call something called P2P. If you know somebody, for example, if you know a person ABC who's having a Bitcoins, and if you wanna pay him cash and buy it, yeah, you have a wallet ID, they have a wallet ID, and you pay the money, man the cash, and he transfers Bitcoin to you. That's also how you could procure it, right? So there is an online exchange way, there is a P2P way. Mining is literally dead these days because there's too much competition, right? Because it's very similar to Uber again, right? So if you became a Uber driver back in 2011-12, you got a lot of earning, you got a lot of incentives. But if you become a driver now, since there's a lot of competition, the revenue has gone down. So similar to that, mining revenues have become more and more tough and lesser, right? So the only way to invest is using this method, right? Okay, now let's debate, or let's discuss a little bit about what Bitcoin is. It is a currency, or it is a trading asset, and etc., right? Okay, so first of all, Bitcoin is not regulated, right? So which means it leaves it hanging for people to define it like however they want. But the truth is, it is growing per day by day, right? Okay, back in April 2018, RBI left a mandate saying trading in Bitcoins is illegal. Immediately, a lot of Bitcoin companies got shut down back in India. But again, in 2020 March, that judgment was taken back, and the Bitcoin is not illegal in India. Now listen to my words carefully. Bitcoin is not illegal in India. That doesn't make it legal either, right? So which means you're at your own risk, right? But trading in Bitcoin is definitely not illegal. But I've been reading some news again in the past 2 days that says, again, there is another bill that's being passed to make it illegal and etc. So that's been contemplation always in India. But let's look at the economy giants here, right? So let's look at China, let's look at America and etc. So these countries have regulated it to certain extent, though not completely, right? Okay, China is regulating Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency itself, but back in US, it is regulating Bitcoin as a tradable asset, right? Tradable asset is like, I don't know, maybe a stock that you buy off the market or a share that you buy off a market. It's like that, right? Its value could go up, its value could go down because its value is not defined by any physical asset or a company or a performance, nothing. So because of it, a large part of Bitcoin is still growing because of speculation, right? Or demand supply, right? So there is a very good amount of risk involved. At the same time, only with risk comes reward, right? So see, now people are getting afraid hearing this statement, the risk is involved and etc. Say, where is risk not involved? Like, let's take a classic case. I invested in some share market. I invested in some stocks back in 2016, and you guys wouldn't believe, in 2019-20, my X amount, which was fairly higher, right, didn't give me even 1 or 2% of growth because India market was down back in 17-18, the stock market and share market and etc. Right, I didn't get good amount of growth, but rather if I had put that money in Bitcoin, at least I would have made a good amount of money, right? So now here, would you want to support a very well regulated industry like a share whose growth is very less, or an unregulated market like a Bitcoin whose growth is high? Decision is yours. I'm not promoting Bitcoin, right? So now let's quickly try and have a look at the Bitcoin growth curve here, right? So that's Bitcoin. This is how it works, right? So people, unlike a share market or a traditional market, this doesn't have opening time, closing time. This is a market that's on 24/7. Okay. Now, if you look at this here, overall growth, if you look at this, back in 2014, Bitcoin's price was almost $0. Then, it got rise to $100, $200, and to the peak, it went to $41,000, which is huge, right? Now you can look at a daily growth, right? You can look at a weekly growth here. Now let's look at a weekly growth here, right? So if you look at even a weekly growth, if you look at a weekly growth here, yeah, see, that's good amount of growth. If you look at a monthly growth here, yeah, look at it here. The monthly, it's been a little down, but if you look at a 3 months growth here, your money is shot up like anything, right? So the whole charm about the market comes in this one, right? On a daily basis, Bitcoin keeps fluctuating from minus 10 or 12% to maximum plus of 10 or 12%, right? So that's where the thing. So I know guys who invest 1 lakh in Bitcoins, and by the end of the day, if the market is good, they make 1 lakh and 8,000, 1 lakh and 10,000. Today, there is no asset in across globally that can give you that amount of return. That's why Bitcoin is actually getting that charm. Same point, I know guys who have invested 1 lakh who will also equally lose the 10,000, 6,000 also, right? Right. So people who benefit in Bitcoin again are people who look at it from a long-term perspective rather than a short-term perspective, right? So if you look at the long-term growth, it's always been growth, right? And there are prediction, at least, it says $35,000. There are prediction that says Bitcoin will reach $100,000 by year end, which means if you invest $1 lakh of rupees into Bitcoin, by year end, you're talking about 3 lakhs, right? And there is also prediction that says Bitcoin will go to as high as $500,000, which is $5 lakh per Bitcoin by the year 2025. So you're talking about, if you put 1 lakh, you're talking about exiting it at 20-30 lakhs by 2025, right? That's where the charm, is all about, right? Right. So now let's look at what has happened to Bitcoin. Now, back in 2012, it was driven mostly by individuals, right? And what happened back in 2013-14 is slowly technology companies started adopting Bitcoins. Like, for example, now PayPal is accepting Bitcoins. Microsoft in US is accepting Bitcoins as a payment. Amazon is testing Bitcoins as a payment. eBay is accepting Bitcoins as a payment back in, US. There are some companies which give salaries in Bitcoins, right? So slowly companies started getting into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin started getting a little bit of a more of a trust, right? Now, what happened clearly after 2015, 16, 17, when 17 is when it rose to, $20,000, institutions started getting into Bitcoins, right? So we're talking about large insurance companies, large hedge fund companies, and etc., who kept a good amount of money. They put it into Bitcoins, and since more and more market capital came in, the value also started going up. Now, if you look at this year, the market capital of Bitcoin today is approximately $700 billion. 700 billion. It is bigger than the largest company of India. You know whom I'm talking about, right? It's bigger than the largest company of India, the market capital. It's almost reaching to $1 trillion, right? So it's definitely very powerful. So a lot of institutions are getting into it, large institutions, hedge fund institutions, and etc. Because though Bitcoin is unpredictable, right? People have learned to manage its risk. That's why Bitcoin is being widely getting more accepted, and etc. Right now, there is also speculation about China trying to build its own cryptocurrency. They are planning to stop printing paper money by 2022. So which means by 2022 there will no more be paper printing in China. There will only be a crypto yuan, right? Which is a yuan just converted into crypto, right? So that has nothing to do with Bitcoin, but that is a huge boost for a technology like blockchain, right? Because of which Bitcoins also will grow, right? Okay, now let's try and look at what is the pros and cons of Bitcoin against a traditional asset, right? Now, pros of Bitcoin is, since it's extremely volatile, which is a con, its profits are also equally higher, right? Because of up to 10 to minus 10%. People who are active traders, you guys will know this. The more the volatility, better the chance of you guys making money, right? So that's why higher potential profits, at least for the next 2 to 3 years, is definitely there, right? Right. Bitcoins are easy to store because it's just a wallet. It's just a wallet in your mobile phone, and you can store Bitcoins in that. Very easy to store, like a Paytm, right? So that's there. Transactions are faster because it has no banking systems or anything involved behind them. Transactions are very faster. People can't steal it because it's your money, your wallet, and especially if you're using smartphones, you can have fingerprint authentication, iris authentication, face recognitions, and etc. to store it, right? So it's become harder to steal. And user anonymity, which is seen as a pro, right? Now let's take, for example, people with lesser credit score, lesser CIBIL score, right? They might not be eligible to trade somewhere, or they may not be eligible for a loan, and etc. There is no user profiling that comes to Bitcoin. It's an open market, right? So that's that. Equivalently, its defects or cons are it's extremely volatile, because which means huge amount of risks are also possible. Bitcoin, since it's not backed up by any institution, who knows, one day it might get shut down also. Okay, though that technically, though it's possible, I don't think that's going to happen in real time, right? It's intangible because it's not backed up with any real asset. Okay, it's people still contemplate saying its value is unproven, right? Because there's no value backing it and etc. See, we could argue that it's paper currency also. Paper currency, is also a piece of paper, right? But just because there is a governing body behind it, right, giving a value to it, we accept its value, right? I'm sure you guys would have heard about Venezuela's the country Venezuela's situation last year. The rupee, the currency value literally went to zero. People burnt money, right? So anything could happen to paper currency as well. But yeah, so its value is unproven, and yeah, there are technical flaws that are possible, that could be possible. That because, like for example, there was a case last month that said somebody forgot the password for their wallet, and almost $100 million worth of Bitcoins was completely lost. Such technical faults are there, right? Now, comparatively, take a traditional asset like rupee or a currency or a gold, for example, right? It's very less volatile. So because of which the way to make money is also very less here, right? And so it has historically proven value, but gold, it's also easy to confiscate unless you buy it as a gold certificate or something like that. Gold is obviously a larger market cap, but Bitcoin is also getting more larger day by day, right? Gold is harder to store, or a physical currency is harder to store. You need a bank for it. It's a tangible asset, right? And money and gold are difficult to send and receive. Okay, what I mean by difficult is, let's take me for example, right? I started a company in London. I wanted to bring in some investments. It was insanely difficult for me to bring money out of India, right? And similarly, when I take money from here back to India, again, I'm being scrutinized for a lot of checks and etc., FDIs and all those stuff, right? So money is being governed very hard. That's not the case in Bitcoin, right? So today, what I could do is I could transfer Bitcoin to India, and I can change it to India rupees, right, without even RBI knowing it. That's the power of Bitcoin, right? So market manipulation is possible because of privately held market capitalization, but that's not point of Bitcoin. You can't manipulate the market, right? So these are some of the pros and cons of here, right? Now let's look at answering the questions that I ran it through. Okay, now people would have heard about Bitcoin as a scam, it's illegal. Okay, see, typically these statements come from people who have never tried or bought Bitcoins in their entire life. Like, I would like to tell a small reference here. Back in 2010-11, I believe when I wanted to purchase an item online using my dad's credit card, he said, online, don't make payments online. It's all scam. It's only, you need to go physically and swipe it. Don't buy any stuff online. People will cheat, right? It's very illegal to transfer money online. That was the state back in 2010. We were scared to basically swipe money online. And after, fortunately, came the Flipkarts of the world and the Food Panda, Swiggies, and the Amazons of the world. Today, everything is online, right? We are paying online, Google Pay is online, etc. So people who say this, just wait, the time is just now coming. It's like trying to value internet back in 1980s, right? Bitcoin is now, it's a baby, it's only growing right now. It's not dead at least, right? Okay, it's banned by the RBI, it's not legal, it's not true, it's false. It is very much not illegal in India. So which means if you're holding Bitcoins, you can, police will come and catch me, income tax will come and catch me, nothing of that sort, right? In fact, if you register with a proper platforms like WazirX or CoinDesk, if you make profits in Bitcoin, you are still subjected to your capital gain taxes of 15% for long term and 13% for short term taxes, right? I'm paying taxes on my Bitcoin profits back in India, FYI, right? Great. We can't use Bitcoins anywhere, it's useless. Though it's largely true in India, you can't use Bitcoins, but Bitcoins is still a good tradable asset. But back in the US, back in China and some parts of Europe, Bitcoins is being accepted for even train tickets. Bitcoins is being accepted for real estate properties. Bitcoins are even accepted for school fees also, right? So whatever happens in US will definitely happen in India in a couple of years of time, right? So, okay, it's valued at $33,000. It's hyped. No, it's not hyped. You need to understand the economics behind it. It comes, the value is high, going high because of its limited supply of Bitcoins, right? So now it's not necessarily for you to buy one Bitcoins. You can even buy for 100 rupees or 500 rupees. You will get 0.0000 some Bitcoins, right? You can still start investing. It's not that you need to buy one Bitcoin. It's not costly. It's just that you will get a fraction of it, right? Now, if Bitcoin grows, let's say annually 30% or 40%, whatever you invested, 100 rupees or 1000 rupees, that also goes 30%, 40% annual level, right? So it's definitely, yes, there is a bit of hype, but it's definitely not a bubble. There is a serious market around it, right? Okay, Bitcoins are risky, stay away. Now, any sort of investment is risky, right? Now, your SIPs, your shares, your everything is pretty much risky. For example, I know for a fact for people who invested in Vodafone shares back in 2016, 2017, 18 in India, Vodafone Idea merger, before that, Vodafone stock almost crashed. Then isn't Vodafone stock risky? People have lost money in Vodafone, right? So which means everything is risky, right? If you know the trade, knowing the risk, please get it, right? So without knowing the trade, if you get in, then it just, it's impossible, right? It just doesn't work like that. Okay, so learn the trade before you get into here, right? Bitcoins are complicated. It's not for us. See, now it's not that Bitcoins are complicated or blockchain is complicated. The whole financial industry is complicated, right? It took me time for me to understand how stock market works. It took me time to understand how bonds work. Okay, it took me time to understand how a SAP works, right? So every financial instrument is complicated. It's just that you need to have the interest towards learning it, and then it's no more complicated. It took time for me to learn Bitcoins and blockchain, but with my limited knowledge back then. But today, internet is flooded with materials. There are even online free Bitcoin blockchain classes happening back in India. You can register for a webinar and you can learn stuff, right? So Bitcoins is definitely not complicated. It's learnable, right? So Bitcoin is not costly. We can't afford it. Like I told you earlier, it's not that you're forced to buy one full Bitcoin, right? You can buy for 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, 3,000 rupees, right? Now, this statement again is very funny statement according to me, because when Bitcoin was back $500, $500 is still a big amount in India. People said, oh no, it's costly. When the $500 grew to $1,000 and $3,000, they said, no, Bitcoin is costly. Now that $3,000 when it grew to $15,000, they said, no, it's costly. Now it's at $30,000. Still people are saying it's costly. Wake up, start investing, start small also. Just open up a wallet, invest 100 rupees, transfer it within your friends among wallet to wallet. You see how your asset grows, and then slowly try and invest more if you're comfortable with it. That's how you start, right? But you need to wake up. You can't just keep saying it's costly, because what's going to happen is 3-4 years down the lane, when Bitcoin becomes mainstream, you would say, hey, you know what? Oh, somebody advised me. I didn't buy it only, right? That's our usual story, right? Let's not do that, right? Okay, I have never seen anybody in my circle buy and now BTC and etc. Well, yeah, maybe it's just that people aren't experimentative, right? So what you need to do is find out an exchange, open an account, start purchasing your first set of Bitcoins and see how it works, and who knows, you might start enjoying better trade in it, right? So I used to trade actively in BSC, I used to trade actively in SIPs and etc. Now when I got introduced to Bitcoins, I moved a larger amount of my portfolio to Bitcoin, and the returns are also great, right? But I spent a good amount of time trying to understand the technology behind it, the regulations behind it, the news behind it, and only then I'm investing, right? So coin market cap, you can basically go there to reach everything. You can read everything about cryptocurrencies and etc. There's a lot of news about how a lot of government is regulating Bitcoin. Now, for example, if somebody lost bitcoins, or if somebody cheated in bitcoins in India, you can't give a complaint. But back in US, you can lodge a federal complaint and they will find it for you. But in India also, it will come. It's just that it's just taking some time, but it will come, right? You can also go to this website called ledgers.com, which can actually help teach you about everything about blockchain. You can learn how blockchain works. Blockchain has a lot of use cases. Bitcoin is only one such. Blockchain is being used for regulating law. For example, a country called Estonia completely transitioned its judicial system into blockchain. So there is a blockchain for judicial system. There is blockchain for trades. There is blockchain for what do you call the logistics. There is blockchain for insurance. Blockchain is getting its awareness in every industry. There is even blockchain for food industry. There is blockchain for COVID vaccines also, right? So blockchain as a technology is starting to get more and more adopted. So blockchain and cryptocurrencies are here to stay, and the sooner you guys explore it, the much better it will be, right? With that, I almost come to the end of my presentation. I'll be more than happy to start taking up questions. Abhishek, you there?
No, sir. This is Selva here.
Yeah.
1 minute. He'll be joining in a minute. In the meanwhile, we'll take a question if any. We're finished with the session, right? 1 minute.
Yeah, the presentation is finished, so I'm ready to take up any questions if at all.
Try to share my screen. Okay, 1 minute. I'm just compiling the same. Sir, this is the first question. Santhosh, you can take this one.
Yeah. Yeah. So one second. Okay. So question is, considering the anonymity, do you think there could be bad money getting into circulation for terrorism, etc.? Okay. See, that's definitely a valid question, and that is definitely happening, and that has happened also. But because of this unregulated market, there's a lot of bad money for money laundering or terrorism that has happened, right? But let's not try and put that blame only on blockchain or Bitcoin, because Bitcoin and blockchain is in existence only since 2010, right? But even before that, terrorism was there. Even before that, money laundering was there. So can we say only because of Bitcoin and blockchain this happened? No, right? So even before that, it is that even one of the world's popular bank called HSBC is one of the biggest lawsuit for $1 billion was against financing terrorism, right? They finance terrorism through them. That thing happened, right? So that's been happening for quite some time, but day by day, more and more restrictions are being put into it, and I'm pretty sure in the next 2 to 3 years, a lot of things will be arrested, and it will be regulated, right? So that's my answer for that.
Sure. There is another one question that's just now came up. I didn't put it in the screen. I'll just read it out. Okay. Please suggest the wallets that are available in India, Mr. Venkatesh.
Okay, so there are companies like Coin DCX which are regulated. In fact, they have applied for RBI license itself. They are a very good company, the Coin DCX. There are companies like WazirX, WAZIRX. WazirX is there. They are also applied for a payments license from RBI. And there are a few more other companies. But I would suggest you start your Bitcoin journey with WazirX or Coin DCX. That's the best platforms available.
Sure. Thank you. Those are the questions as of now, and we'll hand over the session to Mr. Abhishek, sir. He will be the vote of thanks.
Sure. Abhishek, yes.
Hi, Santhosh. Thank you so much for a wonderful address. I think you managed to dispel some of the myths, mysteries, and doubts that we have about blockchain. But
Right.
I think the subject is such where it will keep on building irrespective of how much ever we learn. So it's a new emerging area, and I think you made that clear that the future lies over there. And hopefully, as chartered accountants, we'll also be able to adapt and take the advantage of whatever we are moving towards this direction and using blockchains effectively. So thank you so much for your valuable time, Santhosh, and your thoughts and your insights.
Right. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Happy to help. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
See you.
So thank you all. Thank you for this opportunity. Yes, and my name is Santhosh Palavesh again. I'm mostly available on LinkedIn, Facebook and stuff. So any doubts or anything in terms of it, feel free to ping me, and we're more than happy to guide you. Okay. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, entire ICAI. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Hello, has Srinivasan sir joined?
He has joined, sir. He's ready, sir.
Yes. Welcome, Srinivasan sir. How are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
Good, sir. Good, sir. So, shall we get started, sir? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
So, dear participants and delegates who joined in for today's program, I once again welcome you now to the second session that we have today. It's a very important session, and we have a very important speaker on it: artificial intelligence for professionals. I think, as Santhosh was highlighting one emerging area, the second most important emerging area, and I should not say emerging at this point because I think it's an area which is very much here now, and it is present. It is slowly becoming dominant, which is artificial intelligence, and it's going to play a very key role in our professional lives. And it can either make your life easier or it can make your life harder. The choice is, of course, left to each professional. And to dispel and energize us and give us more information in a more understandable fashion, we have our own chartered accountant, the very well respected and erudite CAS Srinivasan sir, who I now have the pleasure of introducing. Just a second, sir. I'm opening the profile. Mr. Srinivasan is a chartered accountant and founder partner of a very leading firm, which is based in Chennai, Bangalore, and Hyderabad. And he has more than 3 decades of professional experience in working with small, medium, and large enterprises, cutting across several industries. He specializes in management consulting and management assurance services, including business restructuring, cost management, information systems, and business process reengineering. He has helped large enterprises in architecting complex software applications, ERP life cycle consulting, and is also a very well sought after speaker. He's spoken in many conferences and seminars in India and across the world as well. And in fact, he's a professional not only in India, he's well sought after globally as well. So many professional assignments and engagements and due diligence he has done across the globe, and served as a director in many listed and closely held organizations as well. He's a past chairman of the All India Manufacturers Organization, or the IMO, and past president of Rotary Club of Madras Temple City, international secretary of the World Veg Council. So he's a very accomplished person academically as well. He's a fellow chartered accountant, an ACMA from the Cost Accounting Institute, an All India rank holder over there. He's also a CISA from USA and a certified in forensic audit by the ICAI. So this is a brief description about Srinivasan sir. He is an excellent speaker who we always enjoy listening to. Thank you so much, Srinivasan sir, for accepting our invitation to be here today. We're looking forward to your session.
Thank you very much. Am I audible now? Yeah, good. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Abhishek, for such wonderful words, nicer than the reality. So thank you very much for those introductions. Yes, I'm a fellow professional. I'm also trying to learn along with you many of these newer concepts which are going to have a very deeper impact in our profession, in our day-to-day life of our profession, be it a practicing chartered accountant, or if you are in industry as a finance person or as a business leader. In all these facets, artificial intelligence is going to play a role. I think artificial intelligence has been playing a role without our own knowledge. It has already come from the backyard, and it has been there with us without even realizing that some of the tools that we are using is actually driven by artificial intelligence. We have been using them. That is a quick start, and I thank the institute and the team in SIRC to have given this opportunity to share my thoughts. I can only say that it's not that I'm going to bring something new. I've just compiled some of the information that is available and my own thought process in these things. I'm just going to share with you. And probably, if it is a physical meeting, probably I could actually learn more from the audience. But this being a virtual meeting, probably my potential to learn could be limited. So with these words, let me just go to the presentation. I'll just share my screen. Are you able to see the presentation? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It is visible.
Minimizing the picture is there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So first, let's just get a preview of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is one of the greatest opportunities of our times. What really has driven this artificial intelligence to fruition is the availability of vast amounts of data and unprecedented advances in machine learning. That is why the potential to add almost $16 trillion to the global economy by 2030 is out of AI. Definitely, artificial intelligence is poised to transform organizations across every industry and alter the very way people work. As usual, all these Gartners of the world have got some wonderful statistics on that. AI augmentation, a combination of human and artificial intelligence, will recover almost 6.2 billion hours of workers' productivity in 2021. However, AI adoption is slower than anticipated. The survey says 81% of the business dealers do not understand data and infrastructure required for adopting AI. On the other hand, technology companies have invested billions in acquiring AI startups. IBM committed about $1 billion to commercialize Watson. Watson is one of the old platform. Of course, it is cognitive computing platform. Google made major investments in artificial intelligence in recent years, including acquiring 8 robotics companies and a machine learning company. Robotics, machine learning. I think we have been dropping a lot of these terminologies. Probably let us try to unravel one by one. In fact, renowned theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking, many of you might have known and might have seen Stephen Hawking, one of the brilliant physicists. He says success in creating true AI could mean the end of human history. Unless we learn how to avoid the risk, it could even mean end of human history. That is one of the very probably a pessimistic or a very far-reaching view on AI. Why we are talking about all these companies? They have been doing a lot of research and they know where the trends are going. That is why they have been investing all this money in AI. Actually, before we go to artificial intelligence, let us understand what is intelligence per se. Because all of us are saying that we are intelligent. We talk about intelligent quotient. Three building blocks of intelligence is our ability to interact with the world. It is basically senses. We talk about pancha indriyangal, or we talk about all our senses, the ability to speak, see, tactile ability, we touch, motion, manipulation. All these things are part of the intelligence, and the ability to model the world and to reason about it. A lot of reasoning, a lot of imagination. Our mind is constantly working a lot, and then we imagine a lot, we reason out a lot, we create visual models in our own mind based on information that is available, and then the ability to learn and to adapt. If you really look at it, starting from a child, how the child learns and adapts. It's an amazing thing. I think all of you who have gone through this cycle of your own young ones growing, you will really enjoy and you really understand what we mean by this learning and adaptation. We might be wondering why we talk about a child's ability to learn and how the human beings learn. Because when we say artificial, the whole thing is trying to mimic this human way of intelligence through a machine. That is why it's called artificial intelligence. When we really learn, if you look at it, when a child is first seeing his or her father, first, sorry, They may recognize the father, they may recognize the mother, they may play with father, play with mother, and then invariably mother will tell father, appa, all those dad, and all those kind of things, and then the child correlates the word, the personality, and then the importance of the person, and then they start interacting. One day, if the father comes with his mush completely shaven, probably with a new beard or no beard, probably he had a beard and a mush, and then if he is completely shaven and also shaven his head and come, what will do the child will do? Will start crying. That is what is the child, because the child has not yet learned that his or her father could also look like this. Then the people around, the mother says, no, 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 it is only appa, it is only dad. Then the child starts learning, oh, it could also be the same person, the same feature is there, but there are something missing, but the person could also become like that. It starts learning. So the entire learning process, probably after it's born, and even before the child is born, it starts learning, and then it keeps on learning, and we all keep learning till our end. So learning is a continuous process. It is not that it is a one-time process. So these are the building blocks of intelligence per se. So when that is intelligence, what is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is a theory and development of computer systems with an ability to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. So it is different from a typical computer program where intelligence is not involved. It is just an algorithm, and then some input is given. There is a standard process, there is a standard methodology. 5 plus 2 is 3, 5 is x plus y is equal to z, x variable is given, y variable is given, it's just mathematics, and then z is given. That is not artificial intelligence. That is typical computer program. Whereas artificial intelligence is the theory and development of computer systems, the ability to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. Is it good or bad? How does it taste? Can that become like this? So there is a lot of ifs and buts. There is a lot of, I would say, not so precise conclusions. Could be this way, that way. Mostly it could be this. All these things. AI is an umbrella term for a family of techniques that allow machines to learn from data and to act on what they have learned rather than simply following the instructions created by a programmer. So that's what I was telling. In a computer program, let's say, let's talk about an Excel sheet. We put two things and then put a formula and then gives the information. Or if you talk about a tally, we key in a voucher and then it gets posted. But here, there are a lot of techniques through which these AI systems are built. They actually learn from data. They keep on improving. They keep on learning to act on what they have learned rather than simply doing something which has been told in the beginning. That is what is an AI. So there are a lot of techniques below that. It's an umbrella term. I would say that artificial intelligence is an umbrella term. Artificial intelligence is behind the advances today in speech recognition, image recognition. We talk about today autonomous vehicles, driverless vehicles. Artificial intelligence is the one which has enabled the creation of voice activated assistants on your phone. We talk about it. In fact, when we talk to your phone, you have got a Google Assistant, you have that Siri. I think most of you would have experienced it a little. And then sometimes when you ask, what's the name of my wife? It says, I don't know. You can even do this experiment with your Google Assistant. Would you like to tell now? It will ask you. Then if you tell somebody's name as so-and-so is my wife, next time you ask, who is my wife? What's her name? It will tell the name, and it will also say, you said so. With the rider, it will tell, you said so-and-so is your wife. That's what I'm repeating. So it just learns and then keeps repeating. A lot of these things, it then starts. It is not exactly the same kind of sentence you always speak. If you could see, when you speak to your voice activated assistant, you speak slightly differently. You may jumble the words. You may put the question in different ways, but it still recognizes the meaning of the sentence and then tries to answer. For businesses, artificial intelligence can be defined as a way of radically improving three things: automation, optimization, and predictions. Predictions is one of the important things which a normal program cannot do. To forecast business future at both the macro and micro level. I think this is where the technology is moving. So predictive analysis, what could be the thing? It analyzes the data and then gives predictions. And then automating. It's quite critical. We have been automating for a long time using computers. But the way in which we can automate has tremendously improved with the newer AI technologies. It's critical, a time-consuming business processes that are often done manually. Imagine in a bank, there are millions of credit card transactions that are hitting the switch every day, every minute. And then if you got to build a system to find out a fraudulent transaction, will it be possible to do it through normal programming? Will it be possible to use a human monitoring system? And if so, how many people you will put? You will still need people, but how many people you will put to monitor the transaction? And how efficient they will be in diagnosing the potential fraud? And that is where this kind of AI technologies, automation capacity comes in. Optimization, optimizing things, processes, resources. That's again one of the radically improving area for businesses using AI. AI is a tool for improving human decision making. As Stephen Hawking was saying, probably one day it will replace human decision making, which I am skeptical about, because humans also will evolve. But it will improve the human decision making. It will aid the human decision making at speed and scale, and has a potential to augment the work of every employee. See, today what's happening? For any question, immediately we try to Google it, and then we try to get the answer, right or wrong, in about 5 minutes, and then we start analyzing those answers and then come to some conclusions. Probably to do the same thing, we would have taken triple the time or 4 times the time by going to the library, picking up a lot of things, talking to people, so many people, peers, seniors. Finally, we may come to some conclusion. So definitely, it will improve the human decision making at a much higher speed and scale. Let's go the goals of AI. What are the goals of AI? To build systems that exhibit intelligent behavior. That's the word. Intelligence in a computer system. To understand intelligence in order to model it. Because modeling intelligence is not so easy. It's very difficult. Many a time when we see somebody or when we work in a particular scenario, we say that my sixth sense is telling that this will not go through. My sense says that this person may not be good for this job. Why does it happen? Actually, it's your past experience with people, their behavior, probably their physical appearance, or the body language, the way in which they have answered some of your questions. Many of these complex answers and observations and image processing gets processed in your brain with your past experience with similar things, and then you come to a conclusion. But you think that some sixth sense is coming. No, it's actually your brain which has analyzed the past and then come to certain conclusions. The artificial intelligence, the scientists are trying to do the same thing like your human brain. Learn, so come out with answers out of this past learning. Sometimes we want AI systems to be even better and smarter than we are. So these are the goals in artificial intelligence. This is just a little bit of brief history of artificial intelligence. 1943 itself, the scientists have talked about artificial neurons. You know that the human brain is a wonderful creation of God. It has got close to 100 billion neurons, which does the whole lot of things which we can't even imagine. Even today, the scientists have not completely unraveled the potentials or the complexities of brain. Neurosurgeons are still wondering. If you touch some area, what will happen? Nobody knows. That's such a complex organ in the human body. But 1943 itself, people have started, is there possibility of modeling artificial neurons? 1956, Minsky and Edmonds built first neural network computer. It's called SNARC. The Dartmouth conference in 1956, John McCarthy organizes a 2-month workshop for researchers interested in neural networks and the study of intelligence. There was an agreement to adopt a new name to this field, and that's how. So 1956 is the when the word artificial intelligence was born. Imagine, it's more than 60 years since the word was born. But what has happened in the last 5 years or 10 years has been phenomenal in terms of the improvement. 50 to 1969, there has been a lot of enthusiasm. Lots of work on neural networks have been done. But 66 to 74, people have understood that it may not have any reality now. AI problems appear to be too big and complex. The people didn't have that kind of a computing powers those days. I don't know how many of you have seen in the 80s even, before the PCs came, some of you might have seen the mainframe computer. In fact, we were all brought from college to see a mainframe computer in Madras University. It was occupying close to about 7,000 square foot. So the computers, big ones, each computer was almost a 15 by 12, those kind of machines. And then there is a complete paraphernalia related to those computers. Some of you might have seen this card punching machines, card verification machines, card sorting machines, and then finally the whole deck of cards, because there was no way you had a magnetic interface or a magnetic storage medium was not there. So the entire instructions were given in cards, punched cards, which was paper, and that was sorted and that was processed, and then programs like payroll processing or insurance policy processing or warrant processing for fixed deposit, those kind of things were done those days. I've been privy to have seen all these machines and even worked a little with those machines. But as compared to that, today imagine what is there in your own small mobile phone. We just like to talk about 4 GB. Even today, remember, I think it is somewhere in 90s when a 1 GB hard disk was talked about. We have not seen it at the time. I was telling a couple of friends, is he a fool to create a 1 GB hard disk? Who is going to use it? Today, we are all having in our PC. Those days, there was a PC with a small black and white monitor, which used to have something like 20 MB or maximum of 40 MB hard disk, megabits. At that time, when people started talking about a 1 GB, we were all wondering, what will I do with 1 GB? It will be waste of time and waste of resources. But today, our mobile phones have got 5 times that. That is the difference in computing speed, storage, and then the data creation. 69 to 90, a lot of knowledge knowledge-based systems started coming. Expert systems are actually today, when we try to do an expert system using artificial intelligence, people are doing that. Expert system is to do some expert work, expert functionality. It's based on knowledge base of facts and rules. Idea is to give artificial intelligence system lots of information to start with. But somewhere in 70s, it fell out of fashion. It was progressing at a low pace. 90 onwards, techniques such as neural networks, genetic algorithms received fresh attention, in part because they avoided some of the limitations of expert systems. The design of neural networks is inspired, actually, as I told, is by the structure of the brain. Something similar to neuron, they call it perceptron, which is what they create in that. Genetic algorithms aim to evolve solutions to problems by iteratively generating better solutions. We talked about the example of how iteratively a child starts learning. That's the way in which the newer systems are engineered. Okay, today, why we are all talking about AI, why we are talking about its progress and then the impact in day-to-day life. These are the 4 factors which are the actual catalyst for the progress of AI. Increase in processing power at an affordable cost. Earlier, advanced systems designed were very cost prohibitive or just didn't exist. Current generation of processors delivers in a thumb size processor what gets delivered 4 million times performance as is 1971. Can you imagine? At much cheaper cost. Those days nobody could afford a computer. The mainframe computer was very expensive. Only large companies had that. Today we have it in mobile phones. Big data. I think this is one big change. When I say big data has got its own definition. Big data has got various tools, and then we talked about huge data. But even the normal business data, those days it was not in a machine readable form. Those data were in physical books, physical papers. Today, yes, even physical papers can be converted into images. A lot of data is already residing in our accounting systems, enterprise resources systems, and then a plethora of software and databases. And then businesses like e-commerce, businesses like retail, businesses like mobile telephony or banking. Today, huge amount of data is available and stored in some form in the computers. So for the machine to digest, there is something available. For the machine to learn, there is something available. And that is the biggest catalyst for the progress of artificial intelligence. Internet and cloud. That's again another big game changer. Large internet bandwidth and cloud computing. Today we are able to see movies. I don't think at a point of time when we started with the internet, we would have ever imagined that we will be in a position to see something like a Netflix or Hotstar. We would not have imagined, because it was at 9,200 bits per second. Today we talk about 100 megabits per second. 9,200 baud rate, we call it. That is the speed at which our internet connection, not long back, probably about say 2000, 20 years back, that was the speed at which we were connecting to the internet. And then email was that was only probably the solution that we were all using the internet. And browsers came later. And then all this has also created a lot of new algorithms. When we say new algorithms developed in recent years, has dramatically improved the performance of machine learning. An important technology in its own right and an enabler of other technologies such as computer vision. Excuse me. Just a minute. See the technology. In a second, I'm able to hide myself and then have a cup of water. That is the power of technology today. And again, I'm able to come back before you. Probably a little later, we would even be in a position to be there amongst people using as a hologram. I mean, not a HoloLens and things like that. In 3-dimensional figures can come and then they can start talking. And even already these virtual, what you call IIT Madras, I saw one of these a virtual degree. They were presenting the degree to the students. So they were virtually coming in the case as if it's a 3D, and then they were awarding the degrees. All that is already happening. Now, what are the facets of AI? In fact, I came across this very interesting, quick presentation on various facets of artificial intelligence and the technologies involved. I would like this to be played for you. Just give me a minute. I'll play this presentation. You could just listen to that. It's a very beautiful presentation.
Artificial intelligence for people in a hurry. The easiest way to think about artificial intelligence is in the context of a human. After all, humans are the most intelligent creatures we know of. AI is a broad branch of computer science. The goal
To hear this?
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah.
goal of AI is to create systems that can function intelligently and independently. Humans can speak and listen to communicate through language. This is the field of speech recognition. Much of speech recognition is statistically based, hence it's called statistical learning. Humans can write and read text in a language. This is the field of NLP, or natural language processing. Humans can see with their eyes and process what they see. This is the field of computer vision. Computer vision falls under the symbolic way for computers to process information. Recently, there's been another way, which I'll come to later. Humans recognize the scene around them through their eyes, which create images of that world. This field of image processing, which even though is not directly related to AI, is required for computer vision. Humans can understand their environment and move around fluidly. This is the field of robotics. Humans have the ability to see patterns, such as grouping of like objects. This is the field of pattern recognition. Machines are even better at pattern recognition because they can use more data and dimensions of data. This is the field of machine learning. Now let's talk about the human brain. The human brain is a network of neurons, and we use these to learn things. If we can replicate the structure and the function of the human brain, we might be able to get cognitive capabilities
Are you able to see that?
No, so video stopped. You can start share the screen now, sir.
One second. Yeah, I'm just playing it back.
artificial intelligence for people in a hurry. The easiest way to think about artificial intelligence
I'm unable to move it. 1 second.
is in the context of a human. After all, humans are the most intelligent creatures we know of. AI is a broad branch of computer science. The goal of AI is to create systems that can function intelligently and independently. Humans can speak and listen to communicate through language. This is the field of speech recognition. Much of speech recognition is statistically based, hence it's called statistical learning. Humans can write and read text in a language. This is the field of NLP, or natural language processing. Humans can see with their eyes and process what they see. This is the field of computer vision. Computer vision falls under the symbolic way for computers to process information. Recently, there's been another way, which I'll come to later. Humans recognize the scene around them through their eyes, which create images of that world. This field of image processing, which even though is not directly related to AI, is required for computer vision. Humans can understand their environment and move around fluidly. This is the field of robotics. Humans have the ability to see patterns, such as grouping of like objects. This is the field of pattern recognition. Machines are even better at pattern recognition because they can use more data and dimensions of data. This is the field of machine learning. Now let's talk about the human brain. The human brain is a network of neurons, and we use these to learn things. If we can replicate the structure and the function of the human brain, we might be able to get cognitive capabilities in machines. This is the field of neural networks. If these networks are more complex and deeper, and we use those to learn complex things, that is the field of deep learning. There are different types of deep learning in machines, which are essentially different techniques to replicate what the human brain does. If we get the network to scan images from left to right, top to bottom, it's a convolution neural network. A CNN is used to recognize objects in a scene. This is how computer vision fits in, and object recognition is accomplished through AI. Humans can remember the past, like what you had for dinner last night. Well, at least most of you. We can get a neural network to remember a limited past. This is a recurrent neural network. As you see, there are two ways AI works. One is symbolic based and another is data based. For the database side, called machine learning, we need to feed the machine lots of data before it can learn. For example, if you had lots of data for sales versus advertising spend, you can plot that data to see some kind of a pattern. If the machine can learn this pattern, then it can make predictions based on what it has learned. While 1 or 2 or even 3 dimensions is easy for humans to understand and learn, machines can learn in many more dimensions, like even 100 or thousands. That's why machines can look at lots of high-dimensional data and determine patterns. Once it learns these patterns, it can make predictions that humans can't even come close to. We can use all these machine learning techniques to do one of two things: classification or prediction. As an example, when you use some information about customers to assign new customers to a group, like young adults, then you are classifying that customer. If you use data to predict if they're likely to defect to a competitor, then you're making a prediction. There's another way to think about learning algorithms used for AI. If you train an algorithm with data that also contains the answer, then it's called supervised learning. For example, when you train a machine to recognize your friends by name, you'll need to identify them for the computer. If you train an algorithm with data where you want the machine to figure out the patterns, then it's unsupervised learning. For example, you might want to feed the data about celestial objects in the universe and expect the machine to come up with patterns in that data by itself. If you give any algorithm a goal and expect the machine, through trial and error, to achieve that goal, then it's called reinforcement learning. A robot's attempt to climb over the wall until it succeeds is an example of that. So there you go. Thanks for watching, and if you like my videos, please subscribe.
Yeah, you hope you had a very good overview. Thanks to Dr. Raj Ramesh. That was a video that you saw, which was actually beautifully bringing out the concepts of artificial intelligence in about 5 minutes time. So I thought I could share this with you. Hope I'm audible now.
Yes, sir. I can start sharing.
Yeah, I'll start sharing. So that was the video which talks about many of these terminologies. We talks about supervised learning, and because many of these things are going to be discussed again later. So that's the reason why I thought this could give an excellent overview of the various uh, tools, or we can call it various techniques under the umbrella A. So artificial intelligence and cognitive technologies. See, basically the cognition is the biggest differentiator, and which is where the computer systems, when we try to build the cognition capabilities of the computer systems, they become artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is smart, or even smarter than humans, the way in which you develop that. Your son can be smarter than you, your daughter can be smarter than you, the way in which you groom them. Probably they have their own neurons, they have got knowledge, something is there in them, and then what you teach, how they learn from their friends, from parents, from people around. So they become, many a time the children become smarter than their parents. So drivers behind that are cognitive technologies, specific tasks that only humans used to be able to do in the past. These cognitive technologies that are seeing wide adoption, making rapid progress, are receiving significant investment. So what are they? Of course, Dr. Raj explained many of these things. Let us go a little deeper into this. Computer vision, ability of computers to identify objects, scenes, and activities in images. Computer vision technology uses sequences of imaging and classification technology. We talked about computer vision in two different things. One comes under the neural networks, as you could see, the deep learning. The other one is the symbolic learning methodology. So both is actually resulting in computer vision. We are not really bothered about how it comes, but actually computer is building the ability to see things. Computer vision has diverse applications. It could be medical imaging. Today, computer vision is able to analyze a CT scan report, an MRI scan report, an X-ray report, and then able to tell sorry, what is the likelihood of this being a normal picture, or what could be the disease that could be there. Many of these things are actually predicted, which could be confirmed, or actually a doctor who experienced radiologist could see that, and then he could confirm or he could negate it. The moment he negates it with a reason, then the computer starts learning. So in treatment of diseases, computer vision is actually being used a lot. Face recognition, today used by Facebook to automatically identify people in photographs, and based on that it says that so and so is there. And security and surveillance, I think it's extensively used, but human beings compare that. But imagine there are algorithms, there are programs, tools which can actually use the pictures, and then try to, in no time it can say that so and so has been in this place, in this place, in this place, and then he has been there in the past crime scene, and then come out with who is the person behind, and then compare millions of images, and then try to say that who is that person, and then where all he has been there in the past, which may not be, maybe impossible for a human being to do. In shopping, today consumers can now use smartphones to photograph products and be presented with options for purchasing them. I think most of you would have seen Google Lens. Google Lens has got the capability, which is using computer vision. In fact, in stock taking, auditors can take photograph of the stacked inventory items. I don't know, some of you might be aware of that. For machine-enabled counting, it's all emerging. It may not be a perfect tool, a perfect software as of now, but these things are emerging. Probably at the end, I will try to show a demo of this. Machine learning. So computer vision is one big branch of cognitive technologies. Machine learning is another big area, as you could see a big branch in that chart of Dr. Raj. Ability of computer systems to improve their performance by exposure to data without the need to follow explicitly programmed instruction. This is the biggest differentiator. Typically, whenever data is given as an input, there is a programmed instruction, it is processed and then becomes output. But when it comes to machine learning, it's a learning system. Computer systems, they keep on improving their performance by exposure to data. By digesting more and more data, it starts learning, and then its performance starts improving. In fact, even the Google Assistant and some of these programs, they're actually picking up a lot of the data which you talk, which you are saying. Of course, data privacy is another area which we say that you are taking my data, but that is how it learns. How do you learn that what's happening next door? If the data is private, you will not be learning. Unless a servant maid comes from their house to your house and then starts telling what's happening there, then you will be learning what's happening there. Of course, data privacy is at stake, but learning happens when the data is shared. Machine learning is the process of automatically discovering patterns in data. Once discovered, the pattern can be used to make predictions. As we were talking about, credit card security is an example. Somebody is doing a credit card transaction in a particular geofenced area. When you say geofence, somebody could be doing it from Hong Kong. Let's say within 10 minutes, a similar transaction or the same credit card transaction is happening from India. Then obviously it's a problem. So a lot of these parameters, the machine learning tools can understand this is impossible. So these are all rules which they learn, which probably somebody in the banking system starts teaching. They start finding out the past problems, and then they also start teaching them. Of course, what I said is a very simple and less complex example. There could be more complex examples. Somebody is trying to change the mobile number in the credit card system, connected mobile number, and then immediately trying to transfer some money. Many of these individual events may look okay, but all the events collectively can be seen by these machine learning tools, and then they can actually say that these are all riskier transactions, do act on it. Or it could even block the credit card immediately based on certain rules and based on its own learning. Machine learning is one of the hottest areas in cognitive technologies. Google is said to have invested close to 400 million to acquire a company called DeepMind, a machine learning company, in 2014. After machine learning, we come to natural language processing. This is again a huge advancement, which is going to help and sharpen the AI and then their use cases in professional work, be it auditing or be it business work. Ability of computers to work with text the way humans do, for instance, extracting meaning from text or even generating text that is readable, stylistically natural and grammatically correct. That is natural language processing. Probably the way in which the NLP tools today are being used, even in simple things, what we use in a mobile phone. I'll try to show a demo at the end. A natural language processing system doesn't understand text the way in which the humans do understand the language, but it can manipulate text in sophisticated ways, such as automatically identifying all of the people and places mentioned in a document, which could be very difficult by a human being. Identifying the main topic of a document or extracting and tabulating the terms and conditions in a stack of human readable contracts. Imagine housing loan agreements that's processed by somebody like SBI or HDFC could be running into thousands or even hundreds of thousands in a day. If this has to be audited, what happens? Assuming that a loan amount is given, but in a loan contract, the amount mentioned is different, which is wrong. Obviously, legally, it's a wrong information. There could be a lot of, the person's name could be mentioned incorrectly. A lot of these mistakes could happen because, all of us just blindly sign the papers when it is given to us. The person who is giving also blindly signs it. That's how it works today, because a whole lot of paperwork is done. But assuming that there is a tool which can actually process all these agreements and then say that these are the errors, I think that is where this kind of natural language processing comes in handy. None of these tasks possible with traditional text processing software like MS Word or any of those kind of things that operates on simple text matches and patterns. Understanding the meaning of a word under a context. For example, that's a very typical example. Time flies like an arrow. By reading it, it looks very clear. But next sentence says, fruit flies like a banana. Here, like has a different meaning. It's a verb. Here flies is not a verb. It's actually indicating insects, fruit flies. So it's completely different. So if this has to be understood, that a lot of technological innovation has to happen. That is where the natural language processing happens. So it has to learn a lot. So NLP use cases, it could be customer sentiment analysis, which is actually a huge area that's been happening, especially with the advent of social media. Today, a company should have a strategy to understand what's happening in the social media about their products, about their brand. In fact, risk mitigation out of social media is a big thing. Today, Twitter, 3 people write about the farmers' agitation. The government's hackle is raised. Everybody saying what's happening, what somebody is from US is saying something. That's the open world. Information is across available. Anybody can comment about anything. When you are talking about an FMCG, yesterday, a few years back, if somebody has got to give a complaint, they just write to the customer care center. Today, they can put it in Twitter, they can put it in Facebook, they can put it in WhatsApp. It could become viral. Suddenly, a product, it could be a soap or it could be a toothpaste. Suddenly, if 300 people say that it has created an allergy yesterday to me, imagine what would happen. Suddenly, stocks will get blocked everywhere. So companies should have methodology to constantly understand the customer sentiment across various social media platforms. Can that be done by human beings? No. NLP comes in very handy there. There are already tools and there are software, there are companies who develop customer sentiment analysis platforms. Spam filters. Today, Google filters big number of spams. I don't think we even get one spam because it goes to a spam folder. Today, we have gone to a level where we don't even see our spam folder. We just delete it. In fact, it gets deleted automatically after 30 days. So spam is a very big area where NLP comes in handy. Reviewing agreements, report writing, the most complex or the most distasted part of audits is report writing. I'm not talking about the standardized financial audit reports, but other kinds of reporting. I think NLP could become handy in writing or helping in writing some of these things. Then other major area is speech recognition. It focuses on automatically and accurately transcribing human speech. I remember 15 years back, there was a tool called Dragon Dictate. I don't know how many of you have seen it. That's the first speech recognition software which were actually typing out for you. We all bought it very enthusiastically. It was initially understanding more of US accent. They said that you can train the software, it will learn, but I think many of them didn't use it because it was not so accurate. Today, the technology is available in your WhatsApp. It's available in your chat engines. It's available in your word processors today. And then it does a decent job. Your Google document, you can dictate. And the best part of it is that you can even dictate in your own language, vernacular. Probably you can dictate in Tamil and it can type out Tamil. In fact, I find the ability of Google tools to type out in Tamil is much better than even English because it does a very good job. It has to contend with some of the same challenges as natural language processing, in addition to the difficulties of coping with diverse accents. As we say, when somebody is writing, there are different ways of writing the same thing. So the same challenges are there in speech as well. But this is much more complex. That's because the accent is different. The way in which they pronounce the words is different, but it still means the same word. Background noise. There are multiple people talking in a conference room. Each one has to be processed. And then homophones. When we say buy and buy in English, one is buy, other one is buy. It sounds same. So the system has to understand the context in which that word is used, and accordingly it has to type out things. And then it has to work at a fairly high speed because we all speak reasonably fast, and that too Indians, we speak pretty fast. It has to work at that speed and then starts recognizing and typing out things. Speech recognition systems use some of the same techniques as NLP. Applications include medical dictation. See, you all know that medical transcription has been a huge business in terms of BPO companies out of India. I'm not sure how much of that is actually going to medical dictation by the professional directly typing out the things. Very soon, that particular kind of business might vanish. People can just talk, it'll get recorded, it'll also get typed out, it can become document with less human intervention. The same medical transcription companies could be doing a different job with much lesser workforce. Hands-free writing, voice control of computer systems. I mean, all of you are already aware that you can voice control, you can talk to the computer, especially while driving, you can talk to your mobile phone. All this is possible. You are even talking to your car. In fact, today we talk to the gadgets much more than our friends. Telephone customer service applications. You talk and then it brings back something. In all these areas, speech recognition is playing a very key role. Deep learning, as the video of Raj was telling, deep learning is a subfield of machine learning. It's concerned with algorithms inspired by the structure and function of the brain called artificial neural networks. Deep learning gains value through supervised learning. In fact, we talked about supervised, unsupervised, all the kinds of things in that particular video you could see. This supervised learning is very important in making the artificial intelligence systems learn what we do as auditors. If you want to teach them, then it is a supervised learning. So they keep on improving. It's something like you get an assistant, and then the assistant is not going to leave you after 3 years of articleship. You keep on making him improve, and then he becomes even better than a better professional than even you. And those kind of deep learning systems are your assistants. Imagine, and actually you can do a lot more work. Especially when you have deadlines, you can do things faster with lesser workload, lesser effort. So deep learning is actually more data, bigger models, and more computation, all happening in a single model. Deep learning excels on problem domains where the inputs and even outputs are analog, not necessarily digital. It could be pictures, it could be language, it could be text, it could be voice. So it is not really digital, zeros and ones. It could be analog, meaning they are not a few quantities in a tabular format, but instead are images of pixel data, documents of text data, or files of audio data. A pipeline of modules, all of which are trainable. Deep because of multiple stages in the process of recognizing an object, and all of those stages are part of the training. You could see the picture. RPA, what is RPA? Is robotic process automation. It's a software robot that mimics human actions, whereas artificial intelligence is a simulation of human intelligence by machines. Robotic process automation is actually mimicking human action, but intelligence is mimicked by robotic process automation is also part of an artificial intelligence. I think instead of trying to split hair between what is part of artificial intelligence and what is away from artificial intelligence, these are all, as you could see in that video, these are all the tools of artificial intelligence, and each one of that is going to playing a lot of important role in our professions. Say a simple neural network picture is, there's an input, there is a whole lot of hidden layer, and then there is an output. But if you look at deep learning, there are multiple hidden layers, something like similar to your brain. It does something and then it goes to another filter, it does something else. The moment 2-3 variables combine and then say something, the results become completely different. As you could see in that sentence, fruit flies and bird flies. Fruit flies, fruit cannot fly, you know very well. Bird will fly, we know the difference. So if you have to make such kind of conclusions, The neural networks have to be very deep and should have a lot of learning capabilities with multiple layers. Coming to artificial intelligence and audit analytics. So though the topic says that artificial intelligence and professionals, I've actually looked at more of our own profession, because that is what is going to make relevance for the audience. Because we can talk about what happens in the case of medicine, what happens in the case of an artist, what happens in the case of artist will remain an artist for your information. Because anything which is artistic, anything which is intellectually at a higher level will still remain with the human beings. So I've considered the our own profession, audit and accounting profession, for some of these slides. I think the first question, even Mr. Jain has sent a few snippets in WhatsApp, having given this topic, saying that the prediction saying so much of jobs will be lost, so many people will not have work, so many auditors will go out of business, accountants will not have work, probably they are not needed anymore, artificial intelligence will take over their role. Yes, these are some of the predictions which all big agencies, research agencies make. I would say yes and no. Let us just go back in history. When computers came, all the unions fought saying computers are going to replace people. Has it replaced people? Probably when they started fighting, India was 60 crores of people. Today it's 130 crore plus. Still people are working. Still people are doing things. They are all employed. And computers, they have become millions and millions of computers are being used. Today, crores of mobile phones are being used. Have we lost any job? We do things differently. That is the difference. We do completely different things. We do things differently, and also we do things which are not being done today. We might be doing things tomorrow. That is the difference. So in my opinion, we should be optimistic. Chartered accountants should welcome the win-win of artificial intelligence, and we should not dread about the unrealistic consequences. In my opinion, they are all unrealistic. Yes, there could be some truth. We should become, rather than pen pushers, rather than simple calculators, we should become intellectually elevated in our jobs. See, trial balance reconciliation was a big thing when we were all auditing. When we were students, if there is a difference of 20 paisa in trial balance, we cannot go back home. It would be 2 o'clock in the night, 3 o'clock in the night. It could be 2 days, 3 days. We have to still tally the trial balance. When we go and then tell our bosses, the difference in trial balance is 1 rupee 15 paisa. My boss used to say, it could be 1 crore, 1 rupee 15 paisa on this side. The other side, it could be 1 crore. How do you say that this 1 crore 15 paisa is insignificant? It is significant. Today, any of the new age accountants, do they even think ever about the trial balance tallying? They don't, because it's all done by the machine. Does it mean that auditing has become simpler? Does that mean that we don't have anything to do in auditing? Yes, that bit is gone. Bank reconciliation, you are doing it manually, ticking, putting cross-referencing, huge work. Is it there now? It's there in much simpler form. Even in Tally, you just put the dates and then reconcile. But there is a different kind of a problem. People can reconcile it incorrectly and create frauds. So if you look at it, for an accountant, bank reconciliation has become simpler. Have we lost the job of accountants? We need more accountants. Still, we don't get good accountants. Similarly, we talk about, I don't know how many of you have heard a machine called comptometer. Comptometer used to do totaling. A concept of subledgers. Today, we assume that AP, AR, accounts payable and accounts receivable ledgers will automatically match with the general ledger. That is the total of all these parties. I'm talking of systems like SAP or Oracle. There is a control account in terms of ledgers. But Tally doesn't have a control account concept, though it just mimics it. Those traditional days, general ledger will have an account called sundry debtors. Sundry debtors could be 6,000 parties. For those 6,000 parties, those accounts will not be available in the general ledger. That will be in a separate ledger, sub-ledger called accounts receivable ledger. Now, the balance of all these parties should tally with the balance of general ledger. I've seen accountants working for several days, multiple people, to trying to tally this on a regular basis, and especially before the audit, because there could be totaling errors, because totals were manual, even though they may use calculators. So there was a machine called comptometer those days. Companies won't buy that. That will be comptist. That was a profession. Though they will bring comptometer and then do totaling at breakneck speed, and then they will give accurate totals for each of the ledger accounts, so that the closing balance of each of the AR ledger account is correct, so that somebody could draw out a AR trial balance, and then that total should tally with the general ledger. Are we hearing any of those professions? If I say comptist and comptometer, nobody will know. Does that mean that all of them have lost their job? No. So across the board, the application of intelligent systems is redefining the way we work, forcing us to reprogram how we conduct a profession. Artificial intelligence powered data analytics is turbocharged to make faster, smarter, and more accurate decisions. So it's a win-win for us. As an auditor, is to ensure that the books audited are accurate representation of the businesses and free from material irregularities. Today, we still go by the sample evaluations, and then many a time we don't find issues. Actually, we find an absence of issue, meaning that issue is absent in those samples that we picked up. Does that mean in the entire population there are no such issues? Doesn't mean that. We don't know. Today we consider that is sufficient enough to approve the complete accounts on the balance of probability. We say that yes, it is a statistical sampling, that's fine. But the way in which regulators are coming behind our profession, the way in which clients are expecting accuracy levels, and with so many stakeholders looking at us, the days of sample is gone. Probably we need tools to analyze the entire data. Artificial intelligence tools with huge data mining capabilities that allow them to analyze huge data sets at high speed. Artificial intelligence will empower 100% data analytics for better reliability, which we may not be in a position to do. Assuming a huge retail outlet, can we look at everything? Can we look at all data? We talk about materiality, we talk about sampling. I think all this will vanish. Actually, when do the entire thing, probably will bring out outliers very easily. Today, the way in which we state things in a tax audit report, I really shudder to sign any tax audit report. So much is expected out of a professional. We virtually give a kind of a clean sheet without we completely going through that. We cannot say that we did it by sample. Yes, we can always prove that we were not grossly negligent. That is the only thing that we can prove, especially when it comes to management assurance work, internal audits. The value addition is going to be there in analyzing the entire data set at probably the same kind of an effort and bringing out exceptions and then analyzing them. In fact, today regulators, as we said, they take a very tough stance on audit failures, and huge penalties are not unknown. All of you know that. So obviously audit bots and audit software are emerging, will emerge more powerfully, are there. I would rather call them, rather than audit bots, I will say cobots. It means that they're going to be your friend. You can train them, you can work with them, you can make them work for you. Just give me a short break. I'll just have a cup of water. Yeah. So coming to the accounting profession, specifics to accounting and audit. Machine learning can be used to automatically study supporting documents and code accounting entries. These are all accounting bots. There are softwares which have started emerging, wherein you can actually scan all those invoices and they can find out which data is what. You can train them, and then the supporting documents can actually create accounting entry, and then somebody can just check whether it is correct and then approve it. To that extent, accounting bots are emerging. So imagine you scan the documents, that's where the image processing coming, deep learning comes in, and then you train them. In this, if this is how it's appearing, it knows its GST number. First, it may make a mistake, then you tell this is GST number. Second time, it may make a mistake, then you tell it's a GST number. You need to be patient to make the machine learn. But once it starts learning, it can actually do much faster, and then with the greater accuracy levels. It can find out standard places where the vendor name is there, vendor code is there. Probably using the vendor name, it can try to compare your vendor master and then trying to find out which vendor is it. In your vendor master, it might be saying Sendil store. The vendor bill might be saying Sendil stores and co. You might have made a mistake. Then it may even try to find out a similar name is there and is there any other Sendil. Then they may try to make a closest match and then say this is the person to whom it has to be accounted. All that can happen. That is where the artificial intelligence comes in. If it is a simple programming, it will say there is no match. It will reject it. I am not sure. Most of you would have seen in the latest MS Office, there is actually a fuzzy lookup. The typical VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP earlier was comparing the text exactly, and then if it is not there, it will say not available. Now there is something called fuzzy lookup. It will match two strings by similarity, more or less similar, more or less equal. And then if it is exactly equal, it will bring out. Even if it is not so exactly equal, still it will bring out that information, but give a score. What is the match score? It could be 9, it could be 8, something like that. Please try out that fuzzy lookup in your Excel sheets. Probably Office 365 or Office 316 2016, this fuzzy lookup has come in. See, deep learning can aid fraud detection. In fact, fraud detection is one big area. Forensic is one big area where artificial intelligence is actually going to play or is playing a lot of role. DL can analyze unstructured data such as emails, social media, posts, conference, call audio files, all these things. When we talk about fraud detection, imagine if the system is able to give you who has created the entry. Is it an outlier? Because in that account, the amount which has been done is much bigger as a relative size factor. And then is these entries are on a standard basis, the entry time and date is either it's a holiday or it is the evening time, and then they're all round amounts, and then where it has gone, is it all like some vendor accounts through which it has been passed, and those vendor accounts are they active? See, imagine I have just put a few questions to understand whether a transaction could be a potential fraud. All these learnings can be imparted to a deep learning engine, and then you feed the entire data to deep learning engine, and then it can actually give you all the red flags, amber flags in one go. Imagine how useful it is. Probably in a hundreds of thousands of transactions, trying to find out is something like picking a pin out of a haystack. It's not possible. But a deep learning tool, an AI tool, actually, if you can pull out, of course, you have to start teaching. It has to be a supervised learning for the DL. But if that platform is there, and if you start giving that information, probably it may make a mistake in the beginning, saying that these are all red flags. These are all round amounts. the same person has done, it is exactly at the threshold of the maximum cash payment rule that the company has fixed in the software, and similar amounts are there one after the other. So they are trying to split the transaction so that the threshold is not breached. So this is a red flag. It may say that. But a physical auditor, real auditor, might actually validate that and then see, no, this is not the case. This is an emergency payment which they have to make, and then the management is aware of that. Since the computer system doesn't allow more than one payment, and then they have done two payments, and then it has been fully authorized, and then the round amount is because of a specific reason that it has to be paid to it's a specific agency, like a government agency, which still take only cash in our country. Today we talk about not more than 5% cash transactions in expenditure as well as revenue to qualify for a larger threshold for tax audit. But if you go to a local body, or even sometimes things like some of the government agencies, even huge amount of money they expect in cash to be paid in the treasury. Okay, so once you say that these are all not fraudulent transactions, but because of this reason, these are regular transactions, the system learns. Probably the next time when something similar happens, it may tell you the risk factor is lower, but may still flag it. But if you tell and giving a reason why it's not fraudulent transaction, then it will start accepting that as a regular transaction. It will start learning, and then in the next round or in next client's place or a different place, it may not detect this as a fraudulent transaction. But it may be dangerous to put the same rule for every company. So we may have to build, in fact, imagine a deep learning system or an AI system which can actually become 10 assistants for you, each of the assistants getting specialized on certain companies' data. What's the luxury? One system, it has got 10 avatars. Each avatar can become a specialist in a particular type of company or a particular industry. Those are the things that can happen with this. So the possibilities are unimaginable. Deep learning can analyze, as we discussed earlier, emails, social media posts, conference call. Machine learning aid humans to analyze larger number of contracts, as we were discussing about huge amount of loan contracts, lease contracts, because in a hire purchase company, in a leasing company, there are plenty of lease contracts that might be signed every day. How can you do audit? At the most, you can do some sample. If you want to analyze everything, then these tools can come in handy. So rather than saying, will the professionals have lesser work? Probably the same work will bring in better output, better accuracy level, better assurance. I think that is going to be the difference in future. Artificial intelligence would help auditors to work better and smarter by time and resource optimization and enabling them with the learned human judgment. Would enable auditors to ask better questions, because today we get lost by the time the trial balance become a financial statement. To write even the management report, we are in the last minute. We don't have time. But if many of these mundane things can be done, or initial steps can be done by these machine learning tools or artificial intelligence tools, then we have a lot of time to ask qualitative questions and interact with the CFOs, audit committees, boards, management. That adds a lot of value to the audit process. In summary, artificial intelligence could contribute to providing better quality audits, an exciting future, in my opinion, for the auditors. What will be the impact on audit procedures? Artificial intelligence may not be the right choice for some of the complex analysis of financial data, but of course suitable for counting items, spotting patterns, flagging anomalies to a level that exceeds normal expectations. Machine learning in audits improves quality of audit process, thereby reducing the risk of litigation for auditors. Thanks to machine learning, auditors can focus on high-risk issues and prevent such scandals. That is the impact on the audit procedure. So the procedures, the way in which we do things will change. artificial intelligence systems can be taught by the auditors, and they keep on improving in detecting outliers. These outliers identification are extremely important. Anything which is an exception. So quickly it can be putting things, the system can put you things depending on your question, your red basket, amber basket, and green basket. You're concerned about red and amber. Probably you may pick up a few green and then find out whether the artificial intelligence system did it rightly. So if that is not done rightly, then you may even make it learn that, hi Baba, you have done it, you have said it's correct, but it's not correct. Because the guy who has done the entry is so smart that it has cheated you. So then it will start learning. So even a green can become red, red can become amber, amber can become green. That is where the auditor starts teaching it. So the way in which you audit will completely change. Auditors can use AI to automate manual tasks of auditors such as documentation, analyze the complete volume of structured and unstructured data that comes from financial records. Today, at a smaller level, all the auditors take the database of Tally, and if it is ERP tools like SAP or Oracle or Dynamics, and then a whole lot of reports and data can be pulled out. Imagine the entire data of Tally, that file is given to a tool, and then it starts analyzing everything and then giving you exceptions. Will that not be a luxury? It can identify anomalies such as unusual payments or activities. Of course, the moment you give a Tally data and then ask the AI, please do audit, is everything fine? No, it has to learn. Probably many of these tools might come with some standard templates, standard learning tools, standard rules, but you may have to keep making them learn. Then only they become effective. So you need to be patient enough to start using it in the first few audits and then make them learn. It can make predictions about future risk and events. By reviewing and analyzing historical transaction data as an audit finding. For example, today, in an accounts receivable, a person has been constantly delaying the payment post due date, and then he starts making part payments. He's not making full payments, and then while he starts making part payments, there is always a small amount of that invoice, a residual value, which is lying as outstanding while he jumps to the next invoice and starts paying. And then there have been check bouncing or bouncing cases. If it is an electronic transfer, it will not happen, but if it is a physical check, it starts bouncing. A guy who has been making NEFT or an electronic fund transfer suddenly starts sending you checks, and then the checks start bouncing. And then his offtake of material is also slowly dwindling. See, these are all various indications. It's very easy to tell, but to detect all that out of a 5,000 accounts receivable database with so many thousands of transactions, will it be easy? We don't do it today. We may talk, we may take some samples and then try to do it. But if you have to analyze the entire data and then comes out to say that this party has got a potential risk, let's say as an internal auditor, we are going to say that this party has got an inherent risk to go bust. It may become bad in future. Starts working now. These are the reasons for it. He has not paid because of this score. This is the weightage. Based on that, his behavior is suspecting. We have to suspect the behavior, and then it may become bad. Then the management will start taking action now. Will it be adding more benefit to the business rather than saying all these things are outstanding? He has not paid for 1 year, so please make provisions. That is postmortem. I don't think that is going to add any value to the business through your internal audit. Even as part of the statutory audit, if you are going to give a few snippets like this, they're going to like you a lot as management representation. And not only that, you as a statutory auditor also has got to make an assessment on whether the provisioning which they have done is correct or not. All this, there will be a sea change in the way in which we do things. A lot of this checklist based auditing, it can be automated based on audit procedures while reserving tasks meant for human cognition and intelligence. Still, human brain is far more complex and intelligent. Let's move to some of the common use cases. In fact, today people have started developing tools on contract reviews. We talked about the lease loan agreements, vendor agreements. With artificial intelligence, contract review, which is actually a completely text-driven, highly human effort intensive, which can, with the kind of newer technologies, just a minute. Yeah. So contract reviews is one area where a lot can be done, and then identification of material misstatements in the general ledger. In fact, due to factors such as large volume of data, insufficient time, inherent limits of internal control systems, and accounting, auditors have been working with reasonable assurance. The reasonable can actually move towards absolute assurance. Use of machine learning improves the testing of ledger data by analyzing the entire data set in a short time frame to identify material misstatements based on risk analysis rather than, say, today we send a few assistants, they do a lot of vouching, and that too by sampling, and then they come out with certain things, and based on that we start asking questions, assuming that many of these things can be done in just 2 days or 1 day, and then you start straight away from that point and then starts auditing. What will be the luxury? So it means AI-based tools can flag transactional data based on how far they differ from the standard set. Human auditors can take the final judgment to bring it from red to amber or green. That's what I was telling earlier. And the best part of it is that you can keep the AI learn. You can teach. Automating expense audits. AI-powered tools can help businesses to detect duplicates, out of policy spending, incorrect amounts. See, even today, when we try to take data sets from ERP or even Tally, we are able to use spreadsheets and then come out with a lot of these things because we use many tools and then come out with many of these things. But all these things can be done much easily with these kind of tools because you don't have to plot it, you don't have to put it in a structured fashion. It can be unstructured, but it can pick up a lot of variables from the data set and then try to do analysis and keep learning and then start giving you results. So going to some of the uses cases again, accounts payable review, accounts receivable review. Today, detecting a ghost vendor. There are 10,000 vendors in a company. Is it so easy for you to find out a ghost vendor? Unauthorized vendor master. Unblocking of inactive vendors. The vendor has been blocked. Somebody unblocks it and then makes a transaction and then pulls away money from there. Unauthorized master modifications. Today, the biggest challenge which we all face in most of the companies is that the bank account to which money is transferred when we make the vendor payment. It is not the vendor name that matters now. It is only the bank account details that matters. Can anyone say that it goes to the right account? There are plenty of gaps in that between the bank statement, and we have at least in the last 3-4 years we have come across many frauds in this area. GST number validation. Today, if you don't get proper GST number, then we don't get input credit. You talk about the 2B not tallying with you, and then their government is telling you should not take credit. So can we do? In fact, the AI can even go beyond, and then it can even connect to a GST database. It can compare this. It can check a complete thing, and then it can even compare the GST number in the vendor master with the invoices every time when the GST number is coming through. We were talking about image processing. We talked about NLP. All these techniques can actually read the invoices that are being sent by them and then find out which is the GST number and then trying to compare. So it could be completely different so-called unconnected sets of GST, unconnected sets of information which can be compared. Today, how somebody does it accidentally, when we do 10 vouchers and then check that GST number, and then we also check the GST number in the master, it's not matching, then we report it. Then what we say, An extensive exercise has to be done to validate and clean up the GST numbers in the master. But imagine if a tool does it for you, probably you can even charge more, and you can take that as a special exercise and then do it. That is going to add value to the business. Accounts receivable reviews, customer masters validation, doubtful. I was talking about how doubtful debts can be predicted, detecting favoritism in collection by allowing delays, part payments, all these things. Again, KYC and anti-money laundering, especially with reference to banking systems, with reference to forex systems. This is a very big area which already people have started using. Out of the core banking data, it can compare the names, it can compare international databases. All these things can happen. And banking systems, we talked about concurrent fraud monitoring, real-time fraud monitoring systems. Obviously, it can't be human driven, it has to be technology driven, it has to be AI driven with human beings on the top of it. So these are some of the use cases in the accounting and audit profession. There are plenty of use cases in every profession, be it doctors, lawyers. We talked about contract reviews, and then building contracts. All that can easily happen. For lawyers, there is a whole lot of automation that can happen using artificial intelligence. In fact, many of the work that we do today in a lawyer's office can vanish. Some of the leading AI solutions which I could come across is AI Expert. I'll just show a video of the company, and then Audit Map. MindBridge is another Canadian company. In fact, AI Experts, some people of Indian origin only have founded it. It's there in London, it's there in Kuala Lumpur, and I think in some Middle East country. OSP Labs is another company which I could come across. Audit Map. PwC is developing its own AI tools. I think one of the first module they have developed is GL.ai. So I think a lot of these things have already been emerging. People have started developing tools. People have started using artificial intelligence to do many of these things. I just want to show you how this AI Expert has got a video which could actually give you some insights into how this particular tool works. I'll just show that.
Audit Expert product automates the review and verification of company financial statements, a time-consuming, costly, and high-risk part of the auditing process. Rules can be configured in the system to mirror the rules applied by an auditor, including arithmetic calculations, cross-referencing checks, and applying international financial reporting standards. This may include complex rules with several conditions. Configuring new rules or amending existing rules need not require any programming or AI knowledge. The Audit Expert product has been developed such that a business user can own and manage the solution end-to-end. Rules are created via a series of free text fields and drop-down menus on the system's user interface. They make use of dozens of rule combinations, including checking values within tables, in the financial statement narrative, and even in the specific sections of the document. Once a rule is configured, the system will need to be trained to apply this rule using the Train It module. Here, a user may upload sample documents to train the system, or even perform free text training. Training simply requires a user to input evidence or examples of what would constitute compliance or non-compliance for each rule. The system will recognize these sentences and will in future be able to identify similar sentences in other documents. This system requires as few as 20 to 30 training samples for each rule. Once a desired level of accuracy is achieved, the user can run compliance checks on new financial statements. From this module, a user can select the batch of rules they wish to run, upload financial statements, and click on Start Session. Once the compliance check is completed, the system produces two reports, a primary compliance report and a detailed compliance report. The primary compliance report replicates the original financial statement, but overlays the results of the compliance checks. Highlighted in green are text or values that the system has checked and found to be compliant, and in red are areas identified as non-compliant. Here the system is unable to cross-reference the values in the balance sheet to the corresponding note. If we hover over the value, the system will describe the check performed and allows the user to quickly navigate to the relevant section to confirm the result. The platform's natural language processing capability means it can understand and process requirements in free text. Here it has identified sufficient evidence for one of the International Accounting Standards requirements and places the standard's index number in the margin for easy reference. The detailed compliance report produces the same results organized rule by rule. The main purpose of this report is to review the accuracy or confidence level of the system's analysis and provide further training if necessary. Here you have the financial statement shown on the right-hand side and the training fields on the left. Any changes or additions to the training data can simply be copied from the document into the free text fields provided. User access to the training module can be managed based on the user roles, where expert users are able to perform training, while standard users can communicate potential training needs via the feedback requests module. This ensures that the whole organization benefits from savings in time and effort and a consistently high degree of accuracy. Thank you for watching this demo of the Audit Expert product. Please visit our website at www.ai-xprt.com for more details on all our products and solutions.
I'll just share the screen now. So that is one of the presentation that we could see from AI Expert is one of these companies. You could see that. I think it's something like we have to be extremely patient to make these systems learn. I think that is the most important part of using AI. It is not something which is going to completely come in a pre-canned fashion. Yes, probably somebody might develop it in a pre-canned fashion for India or for any certain circumstances. I think there is a whole lot of work for professionals like us to do the work and then give it to a user, and then user can make it further learn. I think that's how it's going to be. We need to be as patient and affectionate to the AI systems as if that we are dealing with our children, especially the young ones. Okay, now with this, I will just go back and then show my mobile phone to you to show a couple of things which are interesting, which is something relating to NLP, which is something relating to pattern recognition, computer vision. Some of these things, how simple tools actually use these technologies for making our job easier. I'll just connect, just be patient for a couple of minutes. I need to connect my mobile phone to you. Just be patient a little. Yeah, good. That you're all able to see my mobile screen. Hello.
Not yet, sir. It's still loading.
Hello.
Yeah, now I can see. Now I can see it. Yeah.
You are able to see it, right? I just give me.
Yes,
I mean, you're able to see me also in the screen.
yes, sir. I can see yourself and also your mobile screen homepage. Yeah.
Yeah. Just be patient for a minute. I will just have to pick up some paper which I've left out. I'll just bring it for you. 1 second.
No problem, sir.
Yeah, I'm back now. See, I think most of you, or some of you at least, would have seen something like Google Translate.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. I'm just going to show you the Google Translate. I don't know why it's taking such a long time. I think its bandwidth has been bad or what, I don't know.
Maybe, sir. But
Yeah,
I
are
can
you
see
able to
your
see that,
translate.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm just clicking the camera of this and I've got a Dinamalar. I'm trying to translate this. Are you able to see that?
Yes, it's displaying
Online
in
for
English.
gambling. In English,
Yes.
online for gambling. And Tamil is there. Suddenly it's translating that also in English.
Yes.
It says Kadavadaipu, Tamil.
Yes.
Lockout.
It says lockout. Yeah.
So it is seamlessly translating a language and then doing it. It's a beautiful example of NLP. And then also doing image recognition, pattern recognition, converting it, and then it has to find out the right kind of a word. In fact, we did an entire audit for a Vietnamese company where the invoices were in Vietnamese. All the samples that we took, we had to translate it into English. Will I have a Vietnamese translator in India? We used simple Google Translate and then checked the invoices. And then he even found out errors in that.
Sure.
That is the power of, this is nothing but AI for you. We don't even realize that we have been using AI. Now let's move to a simple thing like WhatsApp. Hope there is nothing, no secret is there in that. Let me just Selva.
Sure,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, Selva is there. See, yeah. Now I'm going to dictate in Tamil to this Selva. I'm going to send a message. வணக்கம் செல்வா, நீங்க வரும்போது ஒரு வாழைப்பழம் வாங்கிட்டு வாங்க. Oh, sorry, it is still in English. I will just change it to Tamil English. Now I'll say that. வணக்கம் செல்வா, நீங்க வரும்பொழுது 3 வாழைப்பழம் வாங்கிட்டு வாங்க. செல்வா, நீங்க வரும்போது 2 வாழைப்பழம் வாங்கிட்டு வாங்க.
Sure,
Now
sir.
I'm sending this message. I've sent it to him. See, I don't know how many of you have noticed. The first time when I talked in Tamil, I said, நீங்க வரும்பொழுது 3 வாழைப்பழம் வாங்கிக்கிட்டு வாங்க. ரெண்டாவது தடவை நான் சொல்லும்போது வாழைப்பழம் வாங்கிட்டு வாங்க. தமிழ்நாட்டுல most of the people அப்படிதான் பேசுவாங்க வாழைப்பழத்தை. பட் அதையும் அது கரெக்ட் பண்ணி வாழைப்பழம்னு டைப் பண்ணிருக்கு பாருங்க. So it is not a simple speech recognition. It is speech recognition combined with natural language processing and syntax. இது வந்து this is a power in வெறும் Google keyboardல இவ்வளவு பவர் இருக்கு. You are using it. And
Sure.
imagine how much of this the technology can be used in our tools. I just want to show you simple tools have got so much of AI into that. Now I'm going to show you something very interesting. We talked about pattern recognition and image processing in stock taking. This is a phenomenal app, or it's only in the beginning. Probably things will evolve. Now this is an app which I have downloaded. See, it says what is the counting template. There are plenty of templates in this current system. It means that if you want to count stock, depending on the item, you can choose the template so that a picture can recognize the stock item and then actually give us the stock taking information. For example, the templates are plenty of templates are there in this. See, manual, COVID vaccine vials, somebody else, coins, a lot of them. See, a lot of these templates are there. So I've actually chosen a template. Actually, it's a current template is a log. It's a picture of logs, correct? Now I just took a photograph yesterday. Let me just use that photograph because I don't have anything to count here, and use the existing photograph. I took a small bin of tomatoes. Okay. Now this is some of the photographs in our kitchen. I actually also picked up some tablets for this demo. I just did this exercise. Now all of you know that we can count it. This has got 13 tomatoes. Assuming this is the stock for you, I say count. It is counted.
Yes.
Imagine in a huge yard where you got a lot of pipes, a lot of steel angles, a lot of stacked asbestos sheets. We have a lot of templates for that. And then we can just use our mobile phone and do a stock taking. What a kind of convenience. So we talk about all these technologies, how it can actually translate into day-to-day things for us. So this I just wanted to share with you because it could be interesting. It makes how it actually gives us an example of how AI can make things, very simple things can come into AI, and then it can make our life simpler. So I'll just exit out of the mobile phone. I'll just go back. You are able to see my screen, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have another 15 minutes time. I think to conclude on, AI will transform, not replace accountants and auditors, in my opinion. Robots will not replace humans. The two will coexist. Why? Because AI systems do not have the higher cognitive capabilities exhibited by human beings, while human brain cannot compute hundreds of thousands of data points in a split second. So both have got a place. A machine cannot understand the subtle dynamics and context of real world accounting. According to Gartner, AI is set to create more jobs than it will replace, leaving workers, including accountants. Accountants don't have to worry about their job being replaced. Business will always need accountants who can interpret AI findings. They would go up in the value chain, providing high-end consulting services with better business intelligence. So to give you an example, I've given you a picture. You might be wondering why I've given the parrot astrologer. We call it. No, typically we see it in the streets. These parrots, and then somebody uses the parrot. The parrot picks up a small card, and then he pulls out the card and then starts interpreting. It will say, "ஐயா உங்களுக்கு ஸ்ரீதேவியே வந்திருக்காங்க." Then he will start telling something out of that. So the guy who is sitting there is the auditor. The parrot is the artificial intelligence. Parrots will become intelligent. They may even start talking. It will pull the right kind of card depending on the person. It may even understand the understanding. Say, whenever this kind of a person is coming, you pick up this kind of a card. He may teach the parrot, but ultimately the interpretation will be done by that astrologer. So professionals beware. Don't ignore AI and perish. Embrace and prosper. Thank you very much. I think we have time for a few questions. So let me just stop
Sure, sir.
sharing. Yeah.
I'll just take the presenter rights and I'll just post the questions.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Yeah.
I'm just comparing the same. Okay, I hope my screen is visible, sir.
Yeah,
The 2
once again.
questions.
Yeah, visible is visible now.
Any the questions here? It's related to the. Are you able to read it, or do you want me to read?
How and where to get a training for AI? You can tell specifically for Chennai. I want to join IIT Madras degree program, sir, but not sure how to clear the entrance exam. I don't think any of these things we need to do, in my opinion. Artificial intelligence, there are plenty of courses and plenty of videos in the net itself. There are universities which teach. Probably you can do one of the remote courses, but the job is not here to create artificial intelligence tools. There are technology people who are going to do that. Our job is to understand these nuances and then make them work for us. That is where our input is going to come. I think I've addressed the question. Next.
Can AI be used
can AI be used for prediction also? Yes, very much. As we could see, I have talked about it. It can actually do a lot of predictive analysis as well. And that is where the artificial intelligence is differing from the regular programming.
Those are the questions as of now, sir. And if there is any,
Okay.
and once we receive through mail, we'll send it to you across or email, sir. And
Most
thank you for an excellent presentation, sir, with the live examples and video sharing, and also for NLP and image recognition also. And so I request
anyone
everyone
else
to
joining?
join the session tomorrow around 5 o'clock for day 3 of our Metro
Abhishek
conference.
has left, is it?
Yeah, Abhishek sir is engaged with another program. He is engaged with another session on the addressing on Visakhapatnam, it seems so, sir. And there is another question popped up just now, and where it's from the same person who has the query to where to study, right? She asked about where can we practice A or RPA. She's
We can
asking
practice
for
in our own profession. You look for, let us look for tools. I've given some of these companies, probably you can talk to them. You can try to take some of these tools. We can start using it in our profession.
Sure, sir. And once we share as a presentation, we'll be sharing it to all the registered participants who are
I'll
mail.
send you the presentation by email.
Many of them ask for the presentation also. Okay, sir. And thanks for your excellent and lucid presentation.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Sure. Thank you, sir.